Welcome everybody to the Netherkast. I am Cyborg, and I am joined as always by Temp, Razor, and Shad. And looks like Down for Reality popped in last second. Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Going well.
Got some things to say, do ya?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, there's a lot
Lots
to
to say.
cover, and we're gonna try and hammer through it fairly fast. We got about an hour and a half on the clock, so we're gonna try and push through and not belabor too much on points, but there is so much stuff that has been revealed today, obviously with the Kuei trailer, the Johnny Cage breakdown, the Scorpion breakdown, and any other little tidbits that have been found in between. I do want to say off the top, make sure you hit like on the video. I'd greatly appreciate it, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're putting out all sorts of Mortal Kombat content and have for about 9 years now. That being said, you can also follow us all on Twitter, as you see on the screen. That being said, I do want to get one thing out of the way real quick because I will forget about it if I don't. Chon Cena sent us a $2 super chat that he made me aware of because it wasn't letting him send it or whatever. So I want to bring up his question first, or his comment, because I will forget. He says, seeing how versatile cameos are, who would you like to see as a cameo only? Temp has your rating raised due to smoke. We'll get into that, I'm sure, in terms of the rating on smoke and all the thoughts and all the feels on that. We'll definitely be getting to that here momentarily, but for the first part, seeing how versatile cameos are, who would we like to see as cameo only? Down for, who would you like to see as a cameo only? Why don't you go first as our guest in here?
My pick would be Cabal, just so we can get MK3 Cabal. After seeing all the cameos, that's definitely who I want the most.
Yeah,
as just a
Cabal.
cameo, not a playable character.
Yeah, Cabal would be a good pick, especially classic. You know, they've been nailing those designs. Razor?
I guess the short answer would be Serena, because I really love her Mythologies outfit, and I've never felt she needed a redesign or a new set of clothes. But honestly, I would rather have a game made of all cameos at this point, because it guarantees you'll get your classic outfits and moves, and it guarantees you'll be yourself instead of the version of you Liu Kang created, you know?
I was picturing nothing on the screen until you press the cameo.
I just make me a game out of all the retro skins they've built. You know, I'll get into it more, but I'm a little upset that, Rain, for example, doesn't have any of his trilogy moves.
Sure, yeah, we'll definitely be getting into all that. So, Serena, for you...
we're gonna have a whole conversation about that, for sure.
You got Cabal, Shad, for you?
Fucking Jarek, man. Jarek is absolutely made for the cameo system. Nobody wants this guy back as an actual core roster. No one would pay money for him in a DLC pack. But he's an amusing chuckle fuck, and he could have plenty of potential to pop in, throw a knife or a dagger or an axe or a lasso, say something stupid, and then just piss off. And people would love it. I think that's the perfect place for a character like Jarek, that everyone knows that nobody wants.
Alrighty. Temp?
Very similar to Chad's logic. I'm not going to pick any character I actually want to play as a primary. So I would go with the character who I think best fits the assistant, someone we haven't seen before. So I would say Zebron in this case, because I think it'd be harmless. It wouldn't hurt the lore. I actually do think the idea is funny. I think the joke lands. And you probably could do some cool Zatanna shit with him. So yeah, Zebron.
That's tight, Temp. I respect for keeping the Zebron legend alive.
The
new kids,
can't let it go.
They don't know. The new generation does not know. We have to keep it alive.
Learn. They're gonna learn.
Oh man, as for me, I don't really know off the top of my head. I don't know. There's some good picks here. I think maybe if just one that jumps out is probably Chameleon, either with a K or a C. I think they would make for a really cool looking cameo, both from a classic outfit standpoint, but all the colors changing and the different cameo assist moves being the different abilities from different characters. I think that could be kind of cool. Or Shujinko, but I would like to play as Shujinko more than I'd like to play as Chameleon. So, all right. That being said, we got a lot of stuff to get into. Lance K says, what does everyone think of Scorpion? Still hoping he's Hanzo myself. And he super chatted us. So thank you for that.
So last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever we recorded last, I said that I didn't want to speculate at the time about the fan theory that Scorpion would turn out to be Kuei Liang. And the reason I didn't at the time was because there was no evidence for it. It just seemed like we were giving credence to somebody's fan fiction, and I was
Sure.
uncomfortable talking about something with no evidence.
Yeah.
But in this trailer, Scorpion and Smoke are best friends. They do the opposite of the the opposite of the Sub-Zero Noob Saibot line. We share blood, we're not brothers. He says, we don't share blood, but we are brothers.
Right.
So now I'm thinking Scorpion probably is Kuei Liang in this universe.
I think it's time for us to accept that.
Yeah,
yes.
I think now that some evidence actually exists, we can talk about this theory.
That is the difference. I think
It's funny. It's funny actually. I was going to suggest that when this came up, we put it till the very last thing we discussed, because I feel like this is a topic that we could go on about for an hour, because it's very loaded and it means a lot of different things. Think we can keep it concise?
In short, I don't want to judge this story before I've seen the whole thing, but right now I kind of like 0% of MK1's narrative.
I thought you might say something similar.
Yeah.
Chad, anything you want to add to that?
I might have mentioned this last time, but I'm not too certain. Kuei Liang is historically Mortal Kombat's most developed character. He's the game's secret protagonist. He had like the most development of any character from the original series, from MK2 all the way up to Armageddon. Once you're at the top, there's really nowhere else to go but down or sideways. They tried to make an adjustment to him in the last timeline by turning him into a robot and instantly killing him, and then resetting him back to the status quo, and everyone was very upset. It's plain to me that they're actually not sure what else to do with him, and I can't really blame them for wanting to take a different route. But seeing him as Scorpion raises a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, all of which are very justifiable. It's not something that I'm ready to either praise or shit on until I really see how it goes and what they do with him. For now, I'm taking a real wait and see approach to this. But I'm as concerned as Razor is. What do you do with that guy?
The other thing is, so I don't know where these come from. I guess some other Discord, like the official MK Discord, maybe. There are bios already for Smoke and Rain.
Yeah, they're on the official ones, yeah. They're on the official Discord, yep.
So Smoke's bio is now that he was hunting with his parents as a kid, and they trespassed on Lin Kuei land, and the parents got killed, and the Grandmaster felt so bad about it that he adopted Smoke as a son and raised him alongside Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And
that Grandmaster's a hell of a guy.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the Lin Kuei are, nice guys in this timeline. They're not a clan of assassins for money yet. Beyond wants them to be, I guess.
Sub-Zero does scream, "Die like my father" during the matches.
It seems fairly clear we're going to find out Bihan murdered his dad to become the Grandmaster. They've given him Sektor's backstory.
Right.
And so Smoke seems to have Cyrax's backstory, because in this timeline he doesn't have powers, and all of his Smoke abilities are what they call practical magic that he just learned like a wizard, and the use of smoke bombs. So he doesn't seem to be an Enenra anymore, at least that we know right now, and they don't say his name, so he might not even be named Tomas Verbata.
Maybe
for
it's
all we
Hanzo.
Yeah, for all we know, Smoke is Hanzo, for fuck's sake.
Everybody's been put in a blender. Sonya is Jax, Cat's living with dogs.
Massive
Shinnok's a really nice guy, donates to various charities.
Shinnok is Striker, yes.
Every 25th of December, Shao Kahn hands out presents to all the good little boys and girls.
And this is why I say I'd rather have a game made entirely of the cameos. Because they're the real versions of the characters.
But yeah, I think there's something to be said. I think Shad hit it. Both Razor and Shad both kind of summed it up. I think, for me personally, when it comes to Scorpion being Kuei Liang, to me, I'm just gonna wait to see how it plays out. I mean, it could be cool, it could be new and fresh and actually serve a purpose other than just being change for the sake of change, as we all kind of dread. But if they actually write it well and it amounts to something different and worth pursuing, then sure, why not? Like let's see it through. But I feel like to judge it right now would be just kind of going in already with a bad faith. Like you're just judging it over the change for the sake of change.
I
really
want to
wanna
see
wait
the
and
whole
see, yeah.
storyline. Like
Well,
there
yeah.
are things like Johnny not having green shadows that I'm like, I'm gonna wait and see how it plays out. My general feeling is like, you remember how one of my biggest complaints about 11 is Sonya doesn't have the leg grab, Sub-Zero doesn't have the ice clone.
Right.
The characters should at least have their classic kits, but
And they took away Johnny's force balls. He
Johnny
apparently
can't
does
throw
not have
fireballs
them at all.
anymore. Rain
that's something-
doesn't do the
That's something
the
that I'm prepared to
control
say
bubble.
is like completely and utterly silly. But before we get to that, I actually want to elaborate a little bit on Smoke and the one thing about him that I unequivocally completely adore. For so long now, we've been saying that like they don't give the Smoke and Sub-Zero, or Kuei Liang in this case, that relationship, they're being brothers but not blood brothers, any attention. It was kind of the thing we all way back in the day we wanted to see picked up on, and it never went anywhere. We liked to imagine it, and when it showed up again in MK9 briefly, we were all really enthused about it for those couple of bits of dialogue. I know that Smoke is completely different, and they've dropped the Enenra angle completely, apparently. Maybe he is Tomas Verbata, maybe he isn't. But I think, and I've always thought, that one of the most important aspects of Smoke was the fact that he was Sub-Zero's, brother from another mother, whatever you want to call it. And it really looks that they heard those concerns, that they haven't forgotten that this time through, and that he's still going to be the surrogate brother to Kuei Liang that Noob Saibot or Bihan or Sub-Zero, whatever you want to call him now,
Right.
doesn't really always come across as being. That's the single most important thing about Smoke to me. I mean, the Enenra bit was nice. It was nice to finally have something after so many years of nothing back when MK9 first came out. But I loved him before it, I don't necessarily need it. I'm not jumping down their throats for not being present. Actually, point in fact, I'm kind of thinking about this whole current generation of NetherRealm fans who grew up with those games, and now they're seeing all these changes happening, and I'm like, welcome to how I felt in 2009. So, yeah. At this point, it doesn't bother me, stuff like that, actually, to a certain degree. I feel like they remembered the most important thing about Smoke, because going into this, I was terrified that he would just be completely an Enenra or start as some sort of demon monster. And I'd be like, if that happened, I'd be like, you missed the entire point of the character. But they seem to have remembered that, and for this, I am eminently grateful.
So I will agree. To me, one of the most important things you can do to get a character right is to make sure their moral alignment is correct. I feel like if you mess that up, there's almost no saving the character. So that is awesome. I will also add, because I'm about to go into some criticisms, but I will add that most of my problems with Smoke's design are ultimately inoffensive and they don't ruin the character. But I'm still kind of processing what to do with this design. We all ready to go into details? Are we all ready to
Yeah, I mean that's what most people probably want to hear us talk about. We have a couple more super chats, but let's save them for later because people are most likely wanting to hear us weigh in on Smoke and everything else revealed in the actual trailer. So yeah, by all means, go ahead and talk about Smoke.
It is actually. I just want to say briefly. This thing really was a treat for the fans of the hardcore characters. This was wham, here's Smoke, wham, here's Rain. We know you love these guys. It's either that or Ed Boon lit up a fat blaze and listened to some Deep Purple. Smoke on the water. Okay, I'm done now. Go on, Tim.
Fire in the sky. So I think I'll start with my biggest problem. The gray is too dark, and if you make the gray too dark, it doesn't contrast with the rest of the costume, and you lose any sense of a traditional ninja vibe. That's really bad, but it doesn't ruin the character. The second problem is the mask is bad. The mask is really fucking bad. It looks like he's an anteater trying to avenge his family. I don't like it.
You know what? I saw someone on our Discord post a picture of Doctrine Dark from Street Fighter EX Alpha, and
Yeah,
I'm like, holy
it's-
shit.
Yeah, it's the same mask, basically.
They're the same hairstyle too.
So
Oh,
I have a
God.
question. I figured like hair, mask, and then the like the darkness
we'll get to
of
the hair.
the gray and stuff would be all kind of criticism. I can agree with pretty much all of that. I'm not a big fan of the mask. That's probably my least favorite part about the design. The darkness of the gray, you're absolutely right. I think it needs to be like, because Smoke in like Mortal Kombat 2 and UMK3, it was much more of like a very light gray, almost whitish in a way.
Yeah.
So you really need to build up that contrast. You can even see on the screen right now, if you look at the top right corner of this episode, we have a little like subscribe up there with Smoke. It's very light gray to really contrast from the black, just like all the other characters like Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Like it's very vibrant. That gray needs to be of like not vibrant, but you know what I mean? It needs to be very light and stand out from the black. So I agree there. Now where I'm going with this is so far the complaints are probably going to be the hair, the mask, and the shade of gray that he has on there. Now my question to you would be, do we feel like that's something that they're likely to address with alternate attires, with like a longer hair for one of his alternate attires? Because this could be like young Smoke, right, before he grows it out. So maybe they have an alt to kind of cater to the fans of Mortal Kombat 9 of that version of Smoke. The lightness of the gray could easily be dealt with a shader system, even if they have the most like simplified shader where it's just different shades of gray. And then the mask, I would have to imagine we're either getting some small amount of gear switchables or just alternate attires like we have in the past where the mask's going to be changed. So basically, do we feel like the criticisms so far are like superficial enough that you think they'll address them one way or another in the game and have something for you?
Well, we won the Aquaman battle on Injustice 2 because he looked really bad. It's very hard to overstate how bad Aquaman looked on reveal Injustice 2. He looked like a very bad version of Kiefer Sutherland. Now, I think we can win the gray battle if we get audible enough about that and say, "Hey, make the gray brighter so it actually looks like a ninja costume." Then yeah, I think that's got to be doable. I imagine. I mean, I know lighting's complicated and ray tracing and all that jazz. I think we can do that. The mask, we'll see. I have trouble seeing that change. I would love for him to have like long Wrath of Khan hair, but that's gonna be tough. But I think we need to try. I mean, all costumes are great. If they put it in an MK9 costume, fantastic. I love that costume. I love that hair. When done right, read the comic for reference. But I would say we need to try. Because like I said, it doesn't ruin the character for me. I'm still going to play Smoke when he comes out, or when the game comes out. Still going to main Smoke. If Lee May shows up, depending on how she turns out. It's going to be Lee May or Smoke. There's no question there. Nothing ruins the character for me.
That's
and
good.
They could have ruined the character. So that's a victory.
Yeah.
But he looks like an anteater, and I just can't downplay that.
I really, it's not a great mask, but I think that we've all like speculated about this. Those masks they're gear, 100%. I don't care about that mask. It's like Nightwolf's like roller derby helmet in 11. I'm never going to see it again. I'm going to put something else on him. It's fine.
Well, you're stuck with story mode, you know.
Yeah, but whatever. I don't have to look at that every single day and every time I'm playing as him. The mask, it's whatever.
Nightwolf didn't wear the roller derby helmet in story mode, so I appreciated that.
Yeah, I think that they knew that they messed that up. And the hair is going to take a little bit of getting used to. I have to admit, I was a fan of it when it's longer. Turning hair gray and anime-like in a world that's entirely grounded in looking realistic does have the effect of making him look like if you were to put a suit on him, he might be going door to door preaching the word of Genova, you know? He has that like 50-something like retiree aspect of it. Like he kind of looks like a guy that went prematurely gray. It doesn't have the anime effect because it's not long and like beautiful. So yeah, the Wrath of Khan hair would be something I'd really love to see. As it is, I'm probably just going to put a hood on it.
Yeah, I was talking to Randy. He brought up George Clooney. I think that's a really good comparison.
That's
but
fair.
it's also like the lead singer of the Eurythmics kind of thing going on. And he kind of talks like a character from an isekai. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things about Smoke in this game.
You know what I think it needs is frosted tips. I think that would sort of look a little more the effect we're looking for, but in like a photorealism sense.
You know what though? The outfit
There
though,
was like a gradient.
the outfit itself, I'm not as like critical of it as Temp is. I think it's okay. It could pop a little bit more, sure, but I think the record is saying that we find the Lin Kuei outfits that Scorp and Sub are wearing here to be pretty clean. And I like that his shoulder pads are like not pointy, they're more traditionally defined. They slope downwards. The ridges are all right. It's a good basic look for him.
He's not bald. That's good.
Yeah, I like the actual like the ninja getup that he has on. Like, yeah, the lightness of the gray is a nitpick, absolutely, but like the actual the look of it matching the other Lin Kuei outfits for the most part, I think is a good thing. I think as a base attire, and it looks especially good in story mode in the cutscenes we saw where they're all, running up on the castle that they're infiltrating or whatever that is, and they all kind of have matching uniforms, just their own different color scheme. That's what should happen. It goes back to the palette swap
That's the
days.
good shit.
Yeah, and it makes them truly feel like, the Lin Kuei clan or whatever, like they feel like a group, and to me that's good. Let the alts, because I'm sure they'll get at least, one or two or three alternate attires like we do these days. Let that be where they explore more of the unique looks of each character. But as far as like the base story mode attire, I think this is great, especially if we're going back to kind of like a refresh, restart, learning who these characters are within the Lin Kuei itself. I think it's a good avenue to take.
I think
How do
it's
we feel
fine,
about
but
the...
I find myself wondering if the reason they gave him smoke bombs, like actual grenades in his hand, is that he is going to get a cyborg skin.
Very possible.
Oh.
I'd say even potentially likely.
To do what? Sorry, I missed that.
You could transition between smoke bombs out of his hand and like smoke bombs out of like a cyborg's fist very easily.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
again, I don't think there's anything that ever really prevented them from doing it the classic way that MK9 did, but whatever. Honestly, if there's one thing that bothers me about him, is that he's an orphan again. He's an orphan now, like everyone.
But that's
So
kind
many
of
He
orphans.
already was.
Yeah.
He always. I mean, he was a kid that was kidnapped. You don't know if his parents died, did they? I forget.
Well, if you don't have if your parents exist but you're not with them, is that different?
I don't think you're technically an orphan. My problem is there's just too many orphans running around. Shao Kahn's going to adopt this guy in a second. God damn it, Dom. But anyway, how do we feel about the knife? That's what I want to know. He's got a knife now.
You know how
Yeah, I
I
don't
feel
like
about
it.
them adding weapons to characters that don't usually have them.
It's kind of
I
like
think
some.
it's
I was just gonna say, to me, I'm indifferent on it. Like, I don't love it, I don't hate it. It's there. Like, I think he does cool things with it, which is weird because Go ahead.
they keep doing this. This is something that comes up all the time, like Rain and the Katars. They keep on giving weapons to characters that don't necessarily need them. What he's got is a karambit knife, and I think it kind of works better than, like, say, Rain's Katars did, because he is an assassin, he's a killer.
Right.
I think it's cool, but I'd have been fine with just smoke bombs. I don't hate it. It's a thing. I'm indifferent to it.
Yeah.
Just feel as though every move that he does with it, Scorpion could do with his kunai.
Maybe that's the entire point. Maybe they're actually trying to highlight the
maybe.
old similarities between
Yeah,
Scorpion
I think they're all
and Smoke.
They all have blades. I mean, that's
There's
the thing, yeah.
a couple of shots of it where it actually looks kind of remarkably similar to Scorpion's kunai, and I'm like, did they do that on purpose? They might have. But hey, think about
I
this.
just feel like I'm not personally, like, I know Ed Boon likes every game to be different fighting engine, different moves for all the characters, constantly reinventing, constantly experimenting, and I feel like the characters don't have an identity when you do that.
I mean, that's a part of it, but my problem there is in terms of special moves, completely and totally. It doesn't look like he's going to play very much of anything close to his 9 outfit. Close to his 9 form, which was an expansion on his UMK 3 form. All the pop-up combos and stuff. Maybe he might retain the pop-up combos, but it just does seem like his moveset, barring the smoke forward, might be very vastly different. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see any, like, I saw what might have been the teleport punch, but it has a kick instead of a punch. And I saw the smoke forward, but I didn't see the smoke bomb pop up. I didn't see any kind of projectile parry, so most of his 9 moveset, and I know, like, Smoke has been in so few games and copied Scorpion for so long that he doesn't have a definitive classic moveset like most trilogy characters do. But
I
the
feel like
9-1
the
was so good, you know?
the 9 out like the 9 moveset felt like the answer. It's like, yes, this is where he should have always been. The smoke bomb was like the perfect way to have an effect similar to Scorpion's spear, but have it work differently. There was room to maneuver with it. And if he's lost that completely, I'll be very sad because I thought it was perfect for him.
Yeah, it's hard to tell from the trailer exactly what all of his moves are going to be. Even with like Scorpion and Johnny Cage, when we saw their like small gameplay snippets from the last gameplay trailer, it didn't really showcase everything they can do. So it's possible he still has some of that stuff. I did notice, I think Razor mentioned it. He does have the smoke forward. He also has something like a teleport punch because he has the string. I noticed, or a special move where he comes up from behind the opponents, and he also had one where it was cool where he did like this is an attack, but then he like turns his back to his opponent and throws the smoke bomb over his shoulder over his opponent, and then teleports essentially to that smoke bomb up in the air behind his opponent's back, and then hits him from above. That looked really cool. I thought he had a lot of really cool looking strings personally, so I'm excited to see what all the actual specials he has.
Yeah, I thought he.
What's that? Go on. Yeah.
He's going to be my main, and I know I'm going to suck with him. Keep going.
I thought I saw a teleport punch into like an air combo or some shit. That's the only smoke thing I saw where I'm like, okay, that's like smoke.
So I'm seeing a little bit of confusion in the comments. So I want to clarify that when we use the phrase smoke bomb, there are two meanings to that. Like obviously he has a lot of literal smoke bombs, actual grenades in his hand that he throws in this game. But smoke bomb was also the name of a move in MK9 where he threw a cloud of smoke at the opponent's feet and it teleported the opponent into the sky like a pop-up, and then he could start a juggle.
It gets even more confusing than that because Smoke Bomb was the name of the EX version. I can't even remember what the vanilla version was called anymore.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the move that we're kind of wondering where is it because it was just so great, you know?
I mean, it was a problem. I could see why they wouldn't bring it back. Like that was the ice for the smoke.
But it was such a good problem.
Smoke variation in X wasn't broken, and it had it.
Yeah, there you go.
Lame. It had like 30 frame startup. It was something stupid. It was really, really slow, and you had to choose a trajectory. But still, I see where you're coming from.
I'm just saying, there's a happy middle ground between move is broken, move is useless, and just take it out.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's kind of had everything under the sun in 9. I just for me, the exploration feels very balanced in this game, surprisingly. But I don't know. My big thing is what are the frames on those cool strings he's doing? Because if they're like -10 or -16, that's not going to be a lot of fun. So I really hope the frame data is better on Smoke strings. Because Subs frame data was not pretty. Subs string data, even when it was like safe, like -7, which is barely safe. That's 1 frame away from being punishable. Even then, like you're putting yourself in a throw mix-up. So man, I hope those strings have decent mid properties and decent frame data. That's going to be a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so the non-EXed version in 9 was called Smoke Cloud.
Oh,
the fuck.
Okay.
My first choice was Smoke Ball. That's much better.
Lando Mac said in the comments, Smoke actually seems to play like a real ninja. We have all these ninjas and none of them do ninja stuff. This Smoke does, and I think that's a good. That's a good
100%.
I've always like everything Scorpion does is ninja stuff. Like Scorpion, like ninjas do use kunais.
Yeah.
And ninjas
like a Kabuki is what they have in mind.
Scorpion used to leave an after image when he would teleport. That's like an optical illusion, and then he'd get up behind you and hit you. That's a ninja thing.
I would say
Scorpion was. Scorpion
what do you want him to do? You want to have
ninja.
a parry where when you hit him, he turns into a log?
I think he's more complimenting Smoke's gameplay in that
that's a different Hanzo.
He's so far seems like the most ninja of all the ninjas. Like Sub kind of has taken away a lot. Like he's gone away from a lot of the ninja stuff. Rain completely, of course. Ermac completely. Whereas like of the ninjas, Smoke is doing like the typical disappear into a cloud of smoke and that type of stuff. He's doing.
I suppose. I don't think a karambit is Japanese.
No, it's not. It's actually Filipino in origin.
That's what I thought.
But the thing about it is, Scorpion kind of evolved into quasi ninja Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze, And the further and further along he went on that road, the further and further we went away from things like after images. And, so Landomag is right. We've kind of left a little bit of that behind. And Smoke, from day one to me, always felt like the guy closest to a traditional ninja. So in 9, it really made me happy to see him doing that, like, counter parry stuff. And,
Sure, I mean, he's always had he was the guy who would drop a smoke bomb and disappear.
Yeah.
Although Reptile also has that animation in MK2.
It was early days.
And Noob Saibot, like, shadow clones are a ninja thing in anime, and he had shurikens in the 3D era. But yeah, Smoke was always the most ninja of the ninjas.
And I'm happy that they're going down this path with him.
That's been added to him now increases that.
Well, he's almost like Chizuru from KOF now, because it almost looks like Smoke is still on screen when the teleport happens, but I'd have to rewatch it, but it has that same energy in my opinion. So that's a good thing. I'm indifferent to the weapon. I don't have strong feelings in one direction.
Same, yeah. I thought he, like, just overall, like, in general, I thought his gameplay looked really cool. Like, watching it back a few times, it really started seeing, like, all the little details and all the movements he does in the animations, and I thought it looked really sick. So I'm definitely excited to see more on what they implement. And the weird part about his bio, about the whole, like, he never was really born with the magic. He like adopts a practical magic, but, like, he's doing, like, the tornado of smoke thing, and he's
he kind of stole that from
tornado.
Fujin, motherfucker.
I do have some questions about I just read books and became a wizard, and that's
well, I'm sure we'll find out in story. I hope anyway.
I think that's more of a Rain problem now, to be honest. But
Rain has an actual goddamn staff.
Like, well, let's not open that can just yet, because I do want to defend the tornado, because I've wanted a tornado for Smoke since before MK3 came out. So I think you guys need to hold this shit. That's what I'm saying.
I'm fine with the tornado. My question is, backstory-wise, if his elemental affinity is not, like, biological and he just studied books, then why can't he, like, do all the wizardry? Why is it only smoke-related stuff?
Again, it's a practical tornado.
If you go to wizard school and you study to be a wizard, you should be able to shoot, like, lightning bolts and make portals and summon devils.
Maybe he can do all that. He just chooses to just use smoke stuff.
Well,
really sticking to the
tornado virus.
They did define it necessarily limiting himself.
I mean, it's probably a long path. It took Bobby Drake a long time to become an Omega level mutant. But I do want to highlight something from the Mythologies playbook back in the manual, because this actually comes out of the Shirai Ryu section of that manual.
Sure.
Although the art of ninjutsu is not based on an individual warrior's mutated power, see the Lin Kuei, the ninja made up for it with their use of weapons and collective magical techniques that most humans could master with enough practice. And Smoke seems to be, like, right out of the old school Mythologies John Tobias Shiraryu playbook.
Right,
I'm okay
but
with that.
when you say, like, ninja magic that any human can learn, I'm inclined to think of more sleight of handy stuff, more low-level stuff, or even, like, some of the basic Naruto tricks, like making a decoy, disappearing out
it's
of
Ninja
thin air.
101.
But, like,
so you think that, like, the powers he's displaying are, like, too much for one person to learn?
Yeah, the tornado is a lot, magically speaking. It's very, like, it's more powerful than dropping a smoke bomb and hiding behind a tree.
I mean, another thing is there's sort of like, you can use this to explain anything, but here I do think it might actually work. There's the idea that Liu Kang is trying to steer characters to certain destinies as well.
Right,
and it's like, Smoke tried to study something that had nothing to do with smoke, and Liu Kang was like, I'll turn your ass into a cameo right now, and then he got back to his smoke practice. So, like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that could be going on here, but...
I mean, when you really think about it, that entire tornado technique, it implies the use of, like, more wind magical powers than anything else. If it was, they just wanted to make him look fucking cool and didn't really think hard about it. If it was me, I'd just have him form out of a cloud or hovering in the background.
It's a classic Smoke problem. He's melted people. We don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Man.
What are these powers?
All right, one more thing on the Smoke stuff, then we'll transition to Rain, because I'm sure we got a lot of us have things to say on that as well. But I do want to, like, just kind of marvel over the scenes that we see of like the Lin Kuei working together and the camaraderie that we see between Smoke and Scorpion, and just that whole like dichotomy of all three of them running up to the castle doing their, you know, ninja shit. Like this game, once again, after having like so much special forces in Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat X and even Mortal Kombat 9, like this feels like such a return to like back to basics, martial arts, ninja, high fantasy, especially with what Rain is now. Like everything just looks like it's more high fantasy, and we're really moving away from the whole soldier aesthetic, which I love. So I'm really excited about that aspect alone.
Yeah.
But all right,
And
go
I know that people might be concerned about, like, just last point about Smoke. I know that people might be really concerned about the whole Enenra thing. Yes, I was attached to it too. I thought it was a really, really cool origin story. But we loved that guy for who he was way before 9 ever came out, and there is nothing in the rulebook that says that, like, the Cyber Demon thing can't happen again, the Cyber Ninja thing can't happen again. He's just who he always was right now, as far as I'm concerned. A guy with some smoky ninja powers. That's how his story starts. The future...
Yeah, Fred is Zero, check.
Yeah, the future can take care of itself, so... Cross your fingers. That's what I'm doing.
All right.
I think he's done... Yeah.
So, Rain. Obviously, so I'm going to lead on Rain because I feel like I probably have the most positive things to say, maybe. Maybe some of you will surprise me, but I will start off with Rain. To me, I've never been like super into Rain over the years. He's grown on me over the years, but just like it was just never my cup of tea, so to speak. But like, I gotta say, this Rain that we're seeing now, to me, is the most interested I've ever been into Rain. As somebody that does like the D&D high fantasy aesthetic, and felt like Rain, like as a ninja, was never truly like doing ninja things outside of, you could say, maybe like the roundhouse and stuff. But he was never like story wise going and acting like a ninja. Perhaps I am wrong on that, but I felt like they were really transitioning him more into the demigod, Edinia, you know, asshole type, like smarmy asshole in over his head, you know, kind of that type of trope, that kind of guy, that story. And the ninja stuff really didn't really like mesh with that, like in the traditional form of what a ninja is. So taking him down this road of more of like, okay, maybe he's not a demigod anymore. We don't really know what his status is, but as far as what we learned from the bio, he's learning from the outworld, whatever the hell it's called. I don't have it offhand, but he learns from General Shao, we find out in the bio, which I think they removed at some point, so I don't know if that was not meant to get out, but it's out there.
It was not. It was edited
Oh, did
completely
they
out.
delete that?
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Oh wow.
But it's out
I
there,
have,
it's whatever.
Hang on, I have it. I have it right here.
90% of the bio is the same. They just removed the name
Yeah.
General Shao.
As a student at Outworld's exclusive Imperial Academy of Sorcery, Rain amazed his peers with his singular aptitude for water magic. Rain's skills drew General Shao's attention, who owned his water magic into a great weapon. His victories so impressed Empress Sindel that she appointed him as Outworld's High Mage. Are you a wizard? Yes. Yes, I am.
So
Rain wrote that bio.
So my thoughts on all this, like in his design, like I really like the design. Do I hope that maybe he gets like a ninja aesthetic as an alt, just as, you know, to appease the fans of that kind of Rain? Sure, absolutely. All, you know, the more alternates, the merrier, the better. Great, awesome. I believe everybody should be happy. But in terms of like what we see so far, the base of like this more like wizard approach with the staff, the robe, and everything, it feels like so much more like Persian, and taking what he was in Armageddon and MK11 and really dialing it up a notch and really going more in that direction and leaving the ninja stuff behind to a degree. Plus, I liked a lot of his gameplay. I loved how he was like spinning around the staff with like the water ball that sat on top of it. I thought was a really cool aesthetic, and all the like weird like water trails he was able to like go through the sky, and you know, obviously still brings in the cloud with rain and lightning, or yeah, I think there was lightning in there. And so yeah, I just in general, I thought he looked really, really cool, and more importantly, unique and interesting. Like he felt like a real concept from ground up instead of something that they've tried to mold from palette swap guy into unique design. Like this feels like he is his own unique character from the get-go, and since this is a fresh start, I'm on board with this. Like they're no longer trying to mold him from something he was into something new, like in the same kind of timeline shtick. This is like, if this is what he is at the start this time, I think this is interesting. So I think this is a cool direction to take him. We haven't really had this kind of character concept in the series yet, unless I'm forgetting something. So why not? I'm interested in seeing what this character does. That's it for me.
I
Well,
fear
Jeff-
what I don't understand, and I fear New Reign. It's kind of out of left field a little bit, but not all the way. I get where you're coming from. It's just that I keep wondering, who the hell is this guy? You know? He's gone from like kind of a chuckle fuck grunt to, apparently according to 11, some kind of like prodigy battlefield general, to now he's like a wizard. There's no other way to put that. He's a wizard. Was anyone really attached to Ninja Reign? I don't know necessarily.
It's funny. I'm attached to the design. It's not so much the idea or even the classic costume, but I just think MK9 Reign looked really good. I think that's what I'm attached to. I don't really have a big problem with Reign. I think the costume's a little plain. That's really, and obviously he needs the roundhouse. It hasn't been confirmed he doesn't have the roundhouse, but it'd be really sad if he does not have a roundhouse kick.
I mean,
But-
my brain was full of smoke after watching that, and for like the next hour after that, I didn't.
So-
It was hard to pay attention to anything else. But at the back of my mind is that question: like, how much of his classic stuff did we see? I know there was some water teleports, but there was no roundhouse that I saw. No, eh?
There was no roundhouse. He summoned like a big splashing ball of water from the clouds above his head instead of a lightning bolt.
It pops,
And he doesn't
it pops the opponent up.
Yeah.
Something
And he
like that.
doesn't appear to have the surround you in a bubble and lift you into the air.
Jeez, this is like a fucking MK11 Sonya situation,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
that's what I'm saying. Like
That's what I'm worried about.
without the moves that like are part of what define these characters. Like he still has the superpowers that he controls water. But I guess he needs a wizard staff to do it now.
I think the weirdest part for me is even if you give him his classic costumes, he's going to be holding that staff, and it's just
Yeah.
like so. Well, I think
Yeah,
the
it's-
weirdest thing for me was that I thought it was Kung Jin at first when I saw him. I was like, oh damn, they put Kung Jin in the game because it's just a lot of. It looked like if you remember his MK Assault costume, it's very similar.
The
If you
hood
cross,
mask.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't think he looks bad, and I'm not the biggest Rain fan, so I don't have a lot of commentary, but I just think it looks a little plain. That's really my only and Roundhouse. That's
So I am a Rain fan. He's not like in my top 5 or nothing, but I enjoyed like the old timeline, the idea of Rain, of like, here's this guy who grew up in the Edenian Rebellion, and he's like, look how powerful I am. Why am I not in charge? Why don't you guys let me be in charge? And they're like, because you're an asshole, dude. And he's like, well, fine, fuck you. I'm gonna work for Shao Kahn, and I'm gonna kill
I
all of
agree.
you.
I like that.
I
too.
mean, you know what?
That's
Key. Like that's one of his most important personality traits. He can still be a complete and total asshole, but this position might come from necessity of like there no longer being a rebellion for him to be part of.
I just the thing is, so like you talked about him not ever acting like a traditional ninja, and it depends on what you define as a ninja, because
Sure.
when he worked for Shao Kahn, he was of the enforcer rank, which is all the guys who wear the ninja outfits like Ermac and Reptile and Katana, Molina, and Jade. They're all classified as enforcers in Shao Kahn's
Yeah,
army. And
right.
that means they are the people that he sends to the rebel villages to put them down. So he, like, presumably did some assassinations in the night, or maybe, you know, maybe he was like, look, Sektor is a ninja, and he uses missiles and flamethrowers even before he became a robot, because he just loves destruction. And he's more of a shock and awe guy than a stealth guy. Rain could have been like that. The ninja outfit is a uniform that represents you're
Yes.
an assassin for Shao Kahn, but
And I just want to interject one thing that after what you just said, like an assassin for Shao Kahn. And that's kind of why I really do like latch on to this new take so much, I think. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't love it. Like, it's not like I'm gonna main this guy or anything. It's just more like, to me, it calls to me as more interesting. And based off your last comment, kind of hits the nail on the head of exactly why to me, because you said he's an assassin for Shao Kahn, and I just feel like in this series we have so many ninjas slash assassins, like just generic. Hey, this guy is an assassin, or this lady, this woman is an assassin. Molina is an assassin. Katana is an assassin. Tanya is an assassin. Rain, an assassin. Like,
Tanya
we
wasn't
have
an assassin.
well, either way, like, just I feel like so many people get the fucking assassin label, or they're thought of as assassins.
That's because that's how you deal with problems in Shao Kahn's empires. He just sends somebody to kill him.
I'm just saying, like, let's get a wizard in there. I like having. I want some variety. Give me the wizard. Like, you're a wizard, Harry. I don't know.
There are
don't-
definitely, like, you can have these changes to Rain and still make him seem like the same person on the inside.
Sure.
And we don't, like, obviously it doesn't say why he has an affinity for water magic. He could
Yeah, we
still
don't
be
know yet. Yeah.
the child of Argus and a mortal.
And I
they
do
just,
want to, and I
haven't-
do want to make that comment, and just in case for the chat, anybody that thinks we're jumping ahead of ourselves, we know we're only commenting on what we know currently. So just take that in mind when we talk about anything. Things can change.
all I'm
still
saying
still
is,
assuming
like,
he's Argus descended.
I see plenty of classic Rain's identity in the Rain we have now. I just feel like you're cutting out a big portion of it when you take away the roundhouse, the lightning bolt, and the control orb.
I think that's it. Like, you tell me that alternate reality Rain is a wizard more than an enforcer or an assassin or whatever you want to call it. I say sure. But part of a character's identity is in how they fight, the way they fight, their animations, and their special moves. And this really feels like they're opening kind of like a kind of Deadly Alliance reptile can of worms, where it's a lizard, but it's not the lizard you know, and it rolls around, not elbow dashes, you know? It feels on some level like a different guy completely, even though it is supposed to be the same one you know. I don't despise it, I don't hate it, but it's really weird. And I am gonna miss that roundhouse. I am gonna miss that lightning and that control orb.
You know, it'd be
it
cool. Like, if
Go ahead.
because I look at this Rain, like he's so clearly a zoner. At least what they showed off was clearly a zoner.
Yeah.
And I think that works best for like a wizard, right? Because a wizard in D&D, right? They're not frontline. They want to stay at range. So if that is the case, if we want to give him like his roundhouse, how about instead of like having him do the actual roundhouse himself, he creates like a water construct that does the roundhouse? That would be kind of cool. I don't know. Just a thought.
I would be fine with that as long as it was graphically represented in some way. Like I'm
Sure.
cool with, like, if Noob Saibot throws out a shadow clone and the shadow clone is the one that does the Sub-Zero slide instead of him doing. You know, I'm okay with, like, Johnny had the stunt double variation. The way it worked in MKX was that he could actually launch his shadow clone, his after images ahead of him and have them do independent stuff from his body. And that was one of my favorite ideas for Johnny Cage, and we've never gone back there, which is a bummer.
Right.
But, like, as long as some version of the move is represented, then that identity is still there. I just feel like they've sort of created a new character and grafted Rain onto it. They've created a new character and grafted Smoke onto it. They've created
That's the exact way I feel.
character and grafted Scorpion onto it, and that's, I mean, on some level, that is the actual narrative. The MK universe ended, and Liu Kang is creating these alternate versions of everybody, and it's very much like, I don't know how many people have ever read enough DC comics to be familiar with the Tangent universe. But for example, in DC's On the Earth of the Tangent universe, Superman is not Clark Kent from Krypton. He's the most powerful psychic on Earth. He's a black man, and his name is Harvey Dent.
Mm-hmm.
The Flash is a blonde girl who has light-based powers rather than a guy who runs fast. And that's sort of the pattern that all the characters in the Tangent universe follow. And my thing is, like, Elseworlds are interesting in short doses, but I have no interest in stopping reading Earth 1 DC and reading only the Tangent universe.
Sure.
That's not really what I like as a reader. So and that's kind of where I am, like, and again, I don't want to judge before we've seen the whole story.
Sure.
We don't know how this game ends. We don't know how long Liu Kang's timeline is going to last, or if there's some weird twists.
Right.
So I can't say for sure that I'm not going to enjoy the story yet. But I'm not super into where we're starting out, because these aren't the characters I'm invested in. They're alternate versions of them, and that's a thing.
Sure, and that is the selling point of the game, yeah. And that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, absolutely. So I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Why, I mean, I'm so glad that the cameos are the classic versions of those characters.
Sure.
Maybe there will be a Rain cameo who
With
does
the
the lightning
roundhouse,
bolt and
yeah.
the orb. Yeah,
I think that's a high possibility, actually.
Well,
I will say though, like the cameo select screen that they showed us in the stress test build, that screen only has like 4 spaces left.
Yeah. He said 16 to 20, so let's hope that's on the 20 side of things.
I mean, it was old. It's been confirmed that it was a pretty old build. I think it's going to be much bigger.
I do want to share what Rain Reptile says, because he's one of the bigger Rain fans that we know in our community, and a great community member of ours. He says, "Let me just say, as a huge Rain fan, I'm glad to see him getting a new palette of possibility as far as identity as a character. He's always been a bullet point. The character has a chance for substance." So it sounds like he's very happy with this new direction from everything I've seen him say so far.
I think there's a couple of angles to look at it. I think from a story perspective, yeah, I would agree with Rain Reptile there. Even aesthetically, I'm okay with him being a wizard.
I mean, so here's a thought though: is if he is the high wizard of all of Outworld, like he's the leader of all the mages of Outworld, you can't backport that into a more classic version of the MK universe, because Shang Tsung is there and the Shadow Priests are there. So it's like a one-shot change. It only works in alternate universes, like this one.
Well, even outside of the story perspective, what they've kind of done is they took sort of like a all-around character and gave them the Scarlet treatment. So I'm always kind of conflicted when they take a character and give them a completely different, irreversible style. He looks kind of like a hard mid-range zoner now. And even though Rain had zoning in MK9, you're not really zoning people to death in that game with Rain. You're mostly going for, it's combo fishing, essentially. You want that 50% combo. And yeah, that looks like it's kind of well, down 4. What do you think between Smoke and Rain? Who do you give the gold medal to? Gold medal is the wrong word. Okay, you have your own build of Mortal Kombat 12. You only have 2 characters on the select screen. You have Rain and Smoke. Who do you pick?
I would probably pick Rain, just because
Interesting.
it's more interesting than 11 Rain, but it's just like totally new shit. So who knows what he can actually do? Yeah, I don't see a lot of anything that he had before.
But why not Smoke though?
I just think Smoke just doesn't look anything like how he did before. He does, like, I see more of Scorpion doing like the MK3 Smoke shit, like Shad said.
That's fair. It's very ambiguous right now. I feel like Smoke could play any style of them. I mean, he has mobility for sure, but if all that's unsafe, he's going to turn into this weird footsie character if all the frame data is bad on that stuff. So it's interesting.
I'm just gonna say that, like, expecting people to look, act, behave, play like they did before in this game, I think it's finally time for all of us to admit that's not a thing. The next time we see Kano, he is going to be a sentient chicken pot pie sandwich.
I'd like it better.
I think many people would. Indeed.
I think that is a very, like, that's kind of what I've been hitting on as we've talked about this. But yeah, I think, like, ultimately we need, and people in the chat have been saying it too, but like, it's an expectation that we're going into this game and things are going to be different. Characters are going to be different. That was from the get-go, from the announcement of the game. Things are going to be different, and you're going to see some aspects of characters remain the same. Maybe some of their more important, like, traits, but not everything. Not everything is going to be here, and I don't think that's the point of the game. But as Razor has been, pointing out multiple times, if you're in love with a character the way they were, especially the classic versions, that's where the cameos come into play. And now, of course, not everybody's going to have a cameo, at least not at the start. But to me, it feels like a happy mix because we're getting the new, fresh, clean slate starts with all these weird changes. Some we like, some we don't like, some we just don't know enough about yet. But then alongside that, to kind of ease us into this new venture, it's like the classic characters that we know and love have their hand on our shoulder. And honestly, they probably look better than they ever have before. Like these classic designs. Like Sonya especially looks the best I think she ever has, or at least since the arcade days. Her hand is on your shoulder as a Sonya fan. No matter what new Sonya we get, you have that cameo to be like, look, you still have me. You still have me.
Cameo Sonya looks like one of the most fun Sonyas I've ever seen. She has the fucking RKO.
Yeah.
I am already down.
But yeah, I just don't want, like, I just hope that this isn't like, because I feel like I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like this is going to be a recurring trend. The more characters we see shown off, that we're going to get a lot of this to varying degrees. Some characters, it's only going to be like a 10% difference. Some it's going to be, 75% difference. So it's just a matter of hopefully the new stuff we like. But yeah, I feel where you're coming from.
You know what just occurred for me? Like, not to get us too far off track or anything. After just having this overview of Rain and his entire origin story now being different by necessity, because the story is so different, where the fuck is Ermac going to come from if there have been no various Outworld invasion wars?
He's gonna be different. That's my point.
He's gonna be
different.
That's it. Like, it's gonna be. I don't think anyone is ready for how different Ermac is going to be. It's gonna be very interesting, but I don't want to distract us from current things we've just seen.
Right. But yeah, different's the name of the game. I think that's the whole point of the game. Like if it was only like little minute changes, like 5 or 10%, I would question why they even made it such a like a marketing point to say that right out of the get-go. So they told us as much. I just think some probably were hoping for a little bit less changes than others, but here we are. So
here we are indeed.
Hopefully, yeah, like I said, hopefully like the alternate attires are more appealing for some characters, or like I said, gameplay we just haven't seen it all. So
yeah, my problem is mostly the gameplay. Every single trailer so far, I see like all these cameos I want to try. I want to try like 8 different fucking cameos.
Yeah.
But every single primary character I don't give a shit about because they're so different. So I'm still looking for that character where I'm like, okay, they have enough of the same shit.
Sure.
But good mix of the new shit. Because with Rain, I don't see anything where it's like, oh, that's the same character I know and love.
Yeah. To be fair,
he doesn't do a roundhouse.
I think that a lot of people are about to have the issues with it that some of us older diehard heads have been having since roughly the 3D era. Is everyone feels so different constantly, and like you can pick up any other fighting game series. You can expect Ken to basically play like Ken. Yoshimitsu is going to have that double tap backwards insta stab. He's going to have like the whirling fist spin. You can pick up a King of Fighters game. You know how Geese counters people. When you pick up a Mortal Kombat game, you basically have to relearn your character of choice from the ground up every single time. And it's not a good practice.
The input for Sensei's freeze ball will be different for no reason.
Yeah, every single game.
Sometimes there's a valid reason. Like in the 3D era, up to that point, Scorpion's spear had been back, low punch, but suddenly back's a backdash, forward's a forward dash. So it becomes back forward in a button out of necessity. Same with Raiden's. Sometimes I get stuff like that.
Liu Kang.
But when you start like depriving them of of stuff they've had for decades or however long it is, because you want to try something different, that's what I have to say. Like, I think my biggest and only real huge complaint about everything I've seen on tonight's podcast is what idiot decided Johnny's not going to have a force ball this time.
Yeah,
I mean, there's obviously there's clearly a narratively important thing to like the Green Shadows had an origin story, and Liu Kang has created a universe where like the Mediterranean warrior cult didn't happen or whatever. Or maybe
Maybe,
he's
but,
never
like,
received the training, and by the end of the story he will get green shadows. We don't know. That's
I'd
why
like
I
to
don't
s-
want to judge on Johnny just yet, but
I'd like to
it
see that. I
doesn't
really
feel
would.
right, I will say that.
And you know what? I have never been in the camp that says that giving Johnny's green powers and origin story was even necessary. It's nice, sure, but back in the arcades, man, he was tossing around glowing green orbs, and I'm like, oh, it's chi. I didn't give a shit where it came from.
I
You
mean,
could have given you could have given him like green orbs or like red orbs or whatever in this game. Maybe he doesn't have the Mediterranean god killer
always-
backstory. I wouldn't care.
look, I always, when I was a kid, like, chi effects, like, I buy it when it's fire or wind or, you know, just like blue lasers, but the green after images is such a specific look. And
I
then
know.
Shao Kahn started doing it, and Nightwolf started doing it, and I started wondering there must be something that these guys have in common. So I actually
Yeah,
really
like-
do appreciate that there is an origin story for Johnny's Shadows.
No, I mean, I appreciate, and I always felt that Johnny and Shao and Nightwolf were all basically drawing on the same kind of power. But I'm just saying that in Johnny's case, I actually didn't care much where it came from, how he learned it. What mattered to me was that he could do it. And I will say this to be absolutely fair, and because it's kind of a cool thing. They do seem to be giving Johnny like kind of quasi shadows behind his kicks now, and they seem a bit more dark.
It feels
it's a
like
visual
Mortal
combat-
Kombat. It feels like the original Mortal
Ex-
Kombat Johnny Cage.
It looked
Exactly.
I don't see
That's what I wanted
shadows
to
in
bring
it.
up.
It's more of a motion blur.
Yeah.
A motion blur, like, but aesthetically, it's closer to, as Cyborg just said, the MK1 version, and I appreciate that on its own terms. I think it is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like that
I-
kind of like blackish with a slight hint of like a bluish teal. Like it's just very subtle. But yeah, it reminds me most of that in the original. Like it wasn't very green in the original game.
I don't know. I'd have to really like look closer at the trailer, but I didn't see anything that was like after images about it. It was just
no, you're right.
streaking.
No,
Looks
it's
like
not- it's-
smoke or
It's
something.
not after images, but it's like a trail of like wispy black stuff almost in
Yeah.
a way. I only saw the trailer twice.
I think
but
that
it
that might
definitely
have
felt
been
more
meant to
MK1 than 2.
evoke like leaves on the wind or something like that, like something that would imply like speed lines and dashing.
Maybe.
It looks
Um,
strange
In either
to
case,
me.
Oh, I
With the
just
camera
another case,
system, you're
it's
only
got-
gonna
it's
be able
got
to
more
learn one
visually-
character practically. You're not. I'm not gonna be able to try Johnny in this game if I have to work on cameo setups. At least not for a good while. So I'm pretty forgiving, but yeah, I would like the traditional shadow kick, even if the explanation is absent at the moment.
well,
I just like
this is
I'm not very good with rushdown characters, but like now you tell me that's all he is, and you take away the ball. I know I'm not going to be playing this guy, and I'd like to.
Yeah.
I
What's
just
sad
I
because
need
the
that.
ball was like his best rushdown tool. That's how he got his plus frames in MK9.
That's like obviously you're gonna have to use cameos instead. And
I was
that's
about to
like I
say-
get what they're doing there. I understand why they felt that okay, now we can make a character that doesn't have fireballs because they can just call in fireballs from off screen. And it's like, yeah, but I want Johnny to be Johnny. And I am also not going to play as a character who doesn't have any native projectiles. That's just not my play style.
I do want to say a couple things. So you touched on it right now that I think they are designing this game at the bigger picture state, not at the little picture state. And I'm not saying there's one right way or a wrong way, or that you're wrong or that they're wrong or right or whatever. But I think everything we've seen them do so far is with the cameos in mind, because that's how ingrained they are into the game. And also just like people have questioned, well, why are they doing this with this character? Why don't they have this, or why do they have this? And so far it feels like everything is thought out in a bigger picture scale of like, okay, we're going to have Johnny be pure rush down. He's not going to have his ranging options because they said it as much in the cast. We want him to be the anti-zoner. We want him to be the guy that gets in on the zoner and gives them a hard time. Like basically just blitzes them and eats them right up. He even has a parry for his fatal blow. But I just like, I don't know. Like to me, I'm gonna be a dissenting opinion, and it's gonna be an unpopular one with you guys. But to me, when I think of Johnny Cage, I feel like I don't know. I don't look at the force balls as his premier trait. Like, if we're talking about like traits of this character that have to carry over to keep the spirit of Johnny Cage alive, but we're going to take a new spin on it, I don't see the force balls as that. To me personally, it's his personality, it's the split punch, it's the shadow kick, which he still has, whether as shadow effects or the distortion looking thing. He still has like his most iconic moves, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. He has his most iconic moves that people would think of, like a casual fan especially, would think of when they think of Johnny Cage, and he has his personality and his look. So I feel like if they got rid of the force ball because of cameos and they wanted him to be a potential, like a specific role in this game, like we're gonna have like just a pure grappler, I'm sure. Like if they want this to be Johnny, then okay. Now that is with a caveat that I'm getting to, and that's I would bet so much on the fact that Johnny's cameo, when we do get it, is going to be all the classic Johnny Cage moves.
Yeah.
It's
Right,
going to
right,
be
sure.
green energy Johnny Cage. He's going to be doing force balls. He's going to be doing the proper shadow kick. And you're
Definitely,
going to
but
have a
that's
good
the kind of
time.
That's the kind of stuff that just makes me wish we could play as only the cameos.
I just
Yeah.
the thing about this.
And hold on,
think
I do
this
want
is
to say
really-
one more
really
thing,
just-
Shad, real quick. Just
Okay.
I want to add one little like kind of nail into that.
Sure.
Is if we do get cameo Johnny Cage, who's his classic version, I think there's a little bit of charm there teaming up Johnny Cage with classic Johnny Cage as stunt double. But that's just me. Anyways, that's all I wanted to throw on that.
Well, before Shed goes, I do want to make a point that, like, something we've said on the show before, I can't remember if it was Shatter Temp who said it, but basically the gist was that they've never felt that Mortal Kombat needed to adopt the archetype system that all the other fighting games use, where you have a dedicated grappler and a dedicated zoner, and, you know, where you have characters who can't do projectiles and characters who can.
Sure.
Like, I don't need a Zangief in Mortal Kombat. What I've always liked about Mortal Kombat is that pretty much everybody can throw stuff.
It was the intention of John and Ed when they were developing this game to give everyone fireballs that didn't clash. They didn't want that kind of Street Fighter pushback. Mortal Kombat has never been a game that has those fighting game archetypes, and I worry that doing stuff. I'm not like, saying, "Oh, it's all going to shit." That's
Sure.
not the point here. But like doing stuff like that and making Johnny pure rushdown is like, it feels like a step towards that, towards a more traditional fighting game stuff, and that isn't why I am playing these games. It's not what draws me to it. MK11 already kind of felt a little Street Fighter-ish in its combo execution system, and now this is. I'm not going to be surprised, man, if one day like Jax gets a 360 and it's back to block, and I'm like, okay, I have no reason to be here anymore. I've got none, because it doesn't feel like Mortal Kombat on some level. Not a huge one, but enough one to matter to me.
If they're going for a pure rushdown Johnny, and what they need to do is they need to have some version of his forward three, because even MK11, MKX had some version of the forward three. If a pure rushdown Johnny does not have that to me, that's kind of a blow up. I'm not interested in the character. Like, that is the whole point of Johnny, in my opinion, is having that you can cycle through that pressure. And I didn't see it. Maybe it's there and I missed it. Let me know.
see it.
That's bad. Especially if it's quote pure rushdown Johnny, that's a misstep.
It might be there. I didn't see it.
It's a weird thing not to mention. And you're right, I could have missed it.
I feel. I mean, the thing about all this experimental, try new things with the characters stuff, when MKX came out, I just my whole thinking was, please just make the next game 9 again, and then 11 came out, and my thinking was, please just make the next game 9 again, and now 12 is coming out, and I'm thinking, please just make the next game 9 again. Like, all I really want is look, you can change things about the characters. I'm not saying never change the characters, but you need to figure out that every character from Trilogy, at least, maybe including 4, I don't know. You can change a lot about the 3D Air characters. Most of their movesets were trash, but for the Trilogy and maybe MK4 characters, you need to pick 3 special moves that never go away. With Liu Kang, it's fireball, dragon kick, bite kick. With Sonya, it's ring toss, leg grab,
Sure.
some version of the square wave.
Right.
With Johnny Cage, I would say it's shadow kick, nut punch, force ball.
He did
You know,
have the
Sub-Zero,
uppercut thing,
ice
but yeah, I don't know if that counts.
see, the shadow uppercut is the one that can go away and
Sure.
it won't change his kit. Because in 9 and X, he didn't have the uppercut; he had the backflip kick,
Right.
and I was fine with that. It's the same general and like the same function. The animation is just flashier.
And you got it when you EX the flip kick, so
Yeah,
it's still
that was
there.
another thing. Like, even in 9, they figured out a way to like, oh, well, we didn't give Sonya her bike kick, so we'll put the bike kick in her X-ray. We didn't give Johnny the uppercut, so we'll make the uppercut his breaker. You know, they were still in the game somewhere. And I just like, because that's like Sub-Zero, ice ball, slide, ice clone. Those are the 3. Scorpion, spear, teleport punch. And
Yeah.
at this point, I'd say the Hellfire from the ground is his 3rd. He didn't
I don't
really
disagree with
have 3 moves in the trilogy era. Like, he had the fucking leg takedown, which is, it looks like a normal, it's lame. And he had the air throw, which looks like a normal and is lame. So,
Hey, that air throw was good. I like that air throw.
I do
yeah,
wanna-
mechanically.
I do want to disagree with one point that was made, and I think Shad was saying like everybody has a fireball and all this. I don't hate that, but I do think one of my complaints, and I feel like others said the same thing. I don't know if it was any of you over the years, that it felt like, especially with Mortal Kombat X and MK11, it felt like everybody started playing the same because everybody got a fireball, everybody got a teleport, everybody got this, everybody got that, everybody had every tool imaginable at all times because you take away so much character identity, I think, when you give everybody every option, every tool to work with. Like, think back to like MK versus DC when Sub-Zero gained an ice teleport. Hell, it looked cool, but what since when is he just doing a tombstone drop into a teleport and now he's got a teleport? Like, I feel like you really take away the specialness of the characters and them feeling truly unique and truly like capturing this character has this specialty and this personality when you start giving them every single tool. And if that was something that they did from the get-go, I can sympathize why you feel that way. You don't want it to not feel like Mortal Kombat. So I don't necessarily disagree there. I just disagree more that like with Johnny Cage, for an example, like if he doesn't have a fireball and he's just a get in and beat your face in and just, you know, do all sorts of crazy combos in the corner, that's how people have really been playing him, I feel like, in MK9, MKX, MK11. He was that rush down, go in and beat your shit in with his kicks and his punches and all that in the corner and juggling your ass with jab, 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 and all that shit. Like, I feel like that's how a lot of people played him, not so much as a zoner. So I feel like they made a judgment call to say, we're going to double down on that. For better or worse, we'll find out.
Well, the
I
EX
think that's-
fireballs were essential to his like pressure, and that they totally stripped that.
I think
And
that
that's my main complaint.
I mean, you have to keep in mind, I was a Johnny Cage main in 9, and I didn't play him in X and 11 because he felt so different. And the force balls were a big part of his kit in those games. And like, as far as flavor and having like everybody feel the same, certainly when they gave them like every single person having a teleport, every single person having a parry, every single person having like a ground attack, like the Jax's ground pound of some kind, that's a problem. But everybody having a projectile was never a problem because everybody's projectiles used to behave differently. Liu Kang's
that was exactly what I was about to say.
You know, it's visual and it's mechanical. So Liu Kang's is fire, which is a specific flavor of like energy, tells you something about the person, and it travels forward. Johnny Cage was lobbing these balls of energy in these underhanded arcs, and graphically they had shadows on them, which is part of his power set. Everything he does leaves after images, and that behave different. And then Sub-Zero, his projectile, you know, traps you in place. Scorpion's projectile pulls you in. Everybody had one, but they were different mechanically from each other and visually from each other. So that was never a problem. Fireballs weren't. It was when everybody got a teleport and things like that, sure. But everybody started with a projectile, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, like I think that saying that like giving everyone these tools or that option is like that it makes them same is a massive reduction, because sure, a problem with the old classic arcade games was that maybe, yeah, everyone did ultimately have the same basic normals, but it was how you use those projectiles that mattered. In MK2, you used Molina, and you kept like doing those air sides to keep people on the ground and the fuck away from you. Same with Cabal. You use Katana's fans to like dig into the guy, and then while they're reeling back from it, you start jump kicking and
Right.
doing more combos and shit. Like, and Johnny's fireballs were very much like a part of his keep away game, and he needed that. And without that, he's basically got like the air uppercut, and that's about it. So yeah, I
Also
do
helps
think
with
you kind of
balancing
did
as
need
well. I think when you
I-
put someone like Zangief in Mortal Kombat, it's very hard to balance a character of that nature.
There's
To me,
another
yeah.
element of it too, where like if you go all the way back to MK1 and you ask, well, why does the shadow kick have after images? What flavor were they going for with Johnny Cage? And I would obviously it's like the frame by frame, the cells of a film reel, you know? It's a filmic effect that fits Johnny Cage's backstory as a movie star. I don't really see flavor in these wind streak effects that he has now. I don't see how that like fits the character concept or the personality. It just feels like a generic super speed effect that they've put in as a placeholder because they've decided to remove his superpowers.
I should probably add, I got a work appointment
Yeah.
in like 13 minutes. Did y'all want to cover the stress test real quick?
I was just gonna say, I was pretty much gonna give you the floor to say everything you want to say about anything that we just saw today, as well as if you want to talk about stress test, do it. So use this time,
Man,
and then we can wrap up after you're gone.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about fucking Cyrax, Sektor,
We'll get there.
Frost
We'll get there.
cameos.
That's why I'm saying
Oh yeah,
let's
we've
let.
been nothing but complaining. I have nothing but nice things to say about Sector Cyrax
Like I said,
and Frost. They
we're
look
not
fucking spectacular.
we're not wrapping up yet. Let's just give Temp his remaining time that he has available, so that way he can get all of his thoughts out at least. So
Fire.
go away.
Yeah.
or fire away. Yeah.
Sector and Cyrax are great. That concludes my thoughts on Sector and Cyrax. They're fantastic. They look fantastic. I like the gameplay ideas. I like that Cyrax kills himself. All of it's great. I really have nothing bad to say about that. So as for what have we not covered from the reveal trailer today? Everything with Smoke is covered. Nothing's a deal breaker. I'm still going to play him. I think his design has a lot of problems, but nothing is so bad that I would not play the character, and that has been the case in the past. He's not bald, so God bless Smoke. Let's see what else we got here. Stress test. Yes. I think combos are very fun. I'm glad you don't need to spend meter for some characters to do really cool sick combos. Buttons feel very slow. A lot of people have problems with the dashes. I am fine with the dashes. I have no problem with the dashes, but my problem is that frame data feels really bad on block strings, and it's very hard to get a traditional block string in that game because there's so much going on with cameos. So you are -7, which is technically safe by like a frame, but you put yourself in a throw mix-up when you do that. So the game gets very dangerous up close, and I don't think it needs to be the case, especially for a game that's combo heavy. Back in the day in MK9, Smoke was 0 on his launching string, and that was great. I would like to see something like I'd like to be able to backdash or do something on block that is other than guess whether I'm going to get thrown or not. That is one of my biggest complaints with the game. I'm fine with the dashes. It'd be cool if they sped them up. I'm not against that, but I don't think that's the biggest problem with the game. Button duration takes a long time, so the game feels very heavy, and it makes pretty much everything reactable. Despite not loving MK11, one of my biggest praises of that game is they made move recovery and frame recovery very quick on animations. So you could do something like dashing down three consecutively to Kung Lao, and if on confirm, if it hits, you could do a forward. You can go into forward 1 pressure, and you could do another forward 1 because the follow up was not reactable. That's gone. So I would like to see that fixed. But I really enjoyed making a lot of stuff safe with Kano Ball, making my slide safe with Kano Ball. Combos do feel good for the most part. I'd like to see a little bit more difficulty with Sub-Zero, who I played most of the time. Katana feels great, just again, a little sluggish. I think the game is beautiful. The game looks better than you think it does. If you haven't played the stress test, then you don't really know how good this game looks. It is one of the best looking fighting games I've ever seen. I think that covers everything. Do you have any questions about that?
No, I mean you're
Nope.
preaching what a lot of people us have
Don't
said.
have
Are
And
you
any
a wizard?
questions, but I would say that. So first of all, I didn't play the stress test. I don't have a fucking PS5. They didn't put the stress test on PC. But when you say that you don't have a problem with dashes, I'm reminded of the fact that I hated how short the dashes were in MK9, and you didn't have a problem with that either. So
I
That's
was
just
sorry.
where I'm at.
I was reading the chat as you said that. I'm so sorry. Repeat that one more time.
You also didn't have a problem with the distance or speed of dashes in MK9, and I found them to be nearly useless in that game.
I
So
liked it for dash blocking. I liked it more that I could cancel them. That was the important thing about MK9. And MKX, they had so much recovery that they were basically useless. You were largely doing run for your mobility in MKX. For 9, I just like the fact that I can cancel them and make them safe. I could advance forward without having to worry about getting blown up in my recovery. That was a cool thing about 9. Also, you could, especially before the patch, but you could also do it very quickly. So you can cover a lot of ground very fast because it's like dash block, dash block, dash block. And especially if your dash is good, like MK9 Cage, man, you are traveling. So yeah, I know I'm talking super fast, but like
I mean, I don't want to Smash Brothers wave dash to get across a screen. It's not that it feels weird, but it looks stupid.
I mean, I kind of like it. I mean, people criticize KBDs in Tekken, and I love those too.
Can you imagine watching a real fight and there's a guy out in the middle of the street who's trying to come towards his opponent with his fists up, and he keeps wave dashing like an IRL Smash Brothers character?
I mean, I'll do you one better though. Does it also make sense for someone to run up to someone's face, hit them once, and immediately start crouch blocking? Like, I think that looks equally strange to me, right? So I would say ultimately, if it feels good, I'm cool with it. I've been watching Korean backdashing in Tekken, and that's always looked silly. So I really honestly think it's okay for me. Remember, I'm the guy who does the dash jab juggles all day. That's one of the main reasons I played Cage in MK9. And Smoke, like, you know, I'm going to jab, then I'm going to jab again, but then I'm going to crouch jab, and then I'm going to smoke bomb, and I love it.
I'm the guy who wants a fight in a fighting game to look like a scene from a movie. Like, if I'm watching The Raid, I don't see people doing wave dashing.
Maybe they should. I mean, it's fair. I get it. To me, it's all about how it feels.
I also don't see people bouncing, juggling in the air off of a straight jab.
I did want to say, following up on what you said, Temp, on your feedback for a stress test, they did say on the Combat Cast that they're paying attention and they've heard like everything that's out there, like the common complaints and the feedback and all of that. And they said they had nothing to announce on it yet. So that tells me that they're working on it and they don't want to actually say what's being changed, what's being adjusted until it's actually been adjusted and they have it to show essentially. But he did say that to keep all the feedback up and that they're definitely looking into it. I think he almost slipped up in saying they're making adjustments, but he didn't want to obviously promise anything yet.
My only concern about that is I'm afraid that they're going to put all like this. The dash is going to be a scapegoat. Sure. I think the real problem is they took staggers out. That, again, one of my favorite things about MK11 was the staggers. So, but the problem is because they nerfed meter gain on block strings and they nerfed combo viability, it made the game very strike throw heavy. So my worry is the players are going to blame strike throw on the staggers, and they did. So that's kind of why I think the game plays the way it does, is they're trying to solve the strike throw problem. And if that's the case, that makes me sad because I don't think that was a problem to be solved. I think staggers became a scapegoat for strike throw. So I'm hoping we don't have the exact same game with longer dashes. That's what I hope we don't get.
Well,
but
even if
that wouldn't be bad though.
Even if they did that, so I think what's most likely to happen is dashes are going to be the main thing because they even mentioned that by name when they were talking about like feedback. So I would imagine that for sure is going to get changed. But what's likely to happen if, let's say, none of the other stuff you're talking about is seen by them and that's not a commonality of the community, what I could see happening is they adjust the dash speed and how that feels. And then once the next, either if they do another stress test or once the beta hits, in August, people are going to feel it again with that new updated dash. And if it still feels clunky, then they're going to go into, okay, what else is wrong here? So I don't think you're completely alone in thinking that. And I feel like Max also said a lot of the things you were saying about the clunkiness. I don't think he attributed it just to dashing. So hopefully they were listening to that as well.
Yeah, Max had a very good video. I would also, if they were listening to this, I would tell them to pay attention to down fours as well. Down fours and down threes felt very heavy, and the range did not match that heaviness. A down four did not feel worth it in the neutral more times than not, especially when you don't really have a dash in to amp up the potential of that move.
You hear that, that's down four, get it together.
Yeah, man. fuck.
That's fucked up.
Fucking
Well, before I go, down forward, thoughts on the stress test?
I have a lot of the same complaints as you, but I liked playing it. I had more fun than I did 11, so I'm excited to just, try combinations and shit of characters. But I agree on the delay. Even just like the input delay, it's hard to tell because you're not playing like an offline version of the game, so I don't know how much like online input delay there is, but it definitely felt like Injustice 2, like when you block something, it felt like you're in a lot of blocks done, even though the move is punishable. So I would just get like standing 2 when I was trying to do like forward 1-2, and that was really annoying.
Okay, that's massive. I'm glad you brought it up. The block stun feels like MKX in this game. That's another thing I would change. It was very hard to time punishes because they brought back MKX block stun, so it's not quite clear where your punish window is. So yeah, that's a hell of a point.
yeah. Yep.
And fatal blows having like tons of pushback is bullshit. And I don't know why, because they fixed that in 11, so it's a strange.
You think it's a
strange
trade-off
choice.
because they made it so easily like stuffable?
Yeah, it's easy to stuff and you can break them now. So maybe it's like you only are able to get like a reversal punish on most of them. So that might be the trade-off. But yeah.
Okay. Well, how about you, Cyborg? What did you think?
I agree with everything you both said. Like, I had a lot of fun playing it, even if it stayed as is without any of the modifications. I think I'd still have fun with it. I would consider it like a decent game in terms of gameplay wise, but I think it still has the potential to be great gameplay wise if they make the adjustments you were talking about. And I didn't know, like, I didn't have a things to point out like you did because I'm just not as well versed with these kind of like mechanics and terms. But once you kind of laid it all out of like, this is why this feels this way and this is why this feels this way, the more I played it and the more I heard what you were saying, I'm like, okay, I can totally see what you're saying about like the punish window and the block stun and recovery, like the frames taking too long and not knowing fully when it's your turn. Like, I felt that a lot. So that, I think you are absolutely right on. So hopefully, and I made sure to mention that in my video and on Twitter and all that, because I think it's so important to get those kind of statements out there. And I know you're not making them on Twitter, so I try to kind of echo those statements myself, because I do think there's a lot of good feedback there.
What did y'all think of your characters when you played in the beta?
I played mostly Katana with mostly Katana with some Sub-Zero as well with D4. And I had a lot of fun with Katana. I love how graceful and flippy and her animations. Like, she reminds me more of MKX Katana than Mortal Kombat 11 Katana, which is a good thing. So I had a lot of fun with her. And Sub-Zero was fun to do combos with, and those Sub-Zero mirror matches with D4 were fun as well.
Yeah, that was fun. I really like Sub's corner combos.
I didn't touch the other two really, so.
Yeah, I tried some Liu. He was like the easiest character to me. He has some cool corner shit. I overall like how he feels. Kenshi's the most interesting character to me just because he's easily the hardest and the most like in depth. And there's not really been a character like that before in an NRS game. I just need more lab time with him because I was able to like learn the Sonic Fox combo shit, but it's just you have to have the Cameo to even like cancel into it and actually have a combo. So there'll probably be more of that shit in the game, like different cameos you can use for that. So Kenshi's interesting, but I think playing Sub for like long periods of time will get really boring because he kind of has the same combo structure every single time. Like, you just do the ground freeze into back two, and that's basically the entire combo. So I'm hoping they kind of adjust some shit, maybe give him like a different ender, like some filler in between. But I guess that's what cameos are for. So
yeah, I'll agree with that. I'm also going to talk some shit about Liu Kang. Like, if I'm -7 or worse on almost everything I do with Sub, I don't think Brusk should have plus frames ever. So I'm going to throw that in there. Brusk is fucking playing MK11 over here while I'm like -16. What's up?
He was doing the forward 4 pressure just like MK11. I'm like, this shit is still fucking here. Why is this still here? Like, for fuck's sake.
Man, I think you know somebody.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I gotta go, guys. But yeah, I hope everyone. I'm glad, and I hope everyone enjoyed the stress test who got to play it. So
a lot of fun.
Everything was cool. Overall, pretty happy to see Smoke again.
Oh yeah, one
I-
last thing. You got to give us your rating so far. Now that you've seen Smoke, has it gone up at all? From a 5.
Yes, it has gone up. It's a fucking 6.
Okay, all right. Hey, that's progress.
Well,
Maybe
you know, it would be okay if
Harsh,
Smoke
but
had
better.
long hair. And okay, keep the anteater mask. Longer hair and his suit is more gray on the Ninja V. It would be a 7, an easy 7.
And then Lee May could add on to that, so there's potential there.
If Lee May has an anteater mask, I'm going to have words. But all right, I'm out, guys. You all take care.
Yep, see you
Listeners,
later, dude.
take care, guys.
Have a good night,
Um,
man.
All right, so cameos. We got Cyrax, we got Sektor, we got Frost. And I want to say I was so surprised by Frost because I did not expect her to be in this game at all. Like
I
that
really,
took me
really
off guard.
liked the moves they showed for her. Like, I would have loved to have that drop kick where she makes the giant icicles on the bottom of her
that
feet.
was so
That
cool.
part was cool.
Yeah.
That
you
looks
know,
great.
Like, it's, you could see her doing moves like with the same mechanical effect of those stupid drill hands she had in 11, but they wouldn't need to be robot drill hands. She could just make giant icicles.
Right.
So yeah, I see everything they do with cameos as proof of concept that you don't need to experiment with these characters, that they're great the way they are.
But yeah, man, if you go back and watch like my reaction as that was happening, I think I gave my biggest like hype to Frost because it caught me completely off guard. Like once again, I figured we wouldn't see her for potentially ever, but like another couple games at the soonest, just because I figured that kind of the Cyborg version rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, even though I liked it. But yeah, we got classic Frost back as a cameo, and I think that's super sick because if you're going to change some opinions around, hey, let's do it. Let's make her a cameo. Let's have the version that a lot of people loved, the classic Frost. Let's have like her best traits there. And that was exciting. So yeah, that was really sweet. And of course, Sektor and Cyrax looked absolutely fucking phenomenal with their classic outfits, classic gameplay. I am beyond stoked. Like, I feel very much like Down 4 with now I have cameos that I want like to use. Like before I didn't really have that. Like it's not like I dislike Striker or Sub-Zero or anything like that. It just didn't feel like I had any cameo of a character that's one of my favorite characters that's like tailor-made for me. Like this is a character I genuinely really want to play, but they're not going to be playable. But hey, that means I can always use them as a cameo. Now I have both Cyrax and Frost, top 5 characters for me of my favorites, both as cameo options. So that to me is super exciting. I of course still hope that like Cyrax and Sektor make it as DLC down the line if they are truly not playable, which it looks like they're not. Hopefully they're DLC down the line, but right now this is perfect. Like this is classic Cyrax. This is exactly what we were asking for in our our outfits that we would like to bring back, our top 10 outfits or whatever the heck we did video a few months back.
I've seen a lot of other channels besides Just Us who are like MK3 is the best look for the cybers, and like just so happy to see like the retro skins. Like even like Ketchup and Mustard, I was watching their breakdown stuff and they were like, yeah, the retro skins are better than how they looked in 9X and 11. And like it's nice to not be the only like old man shouting at the sky for once.
We have never been those people. They're not ninjas. You don't assassinate someone by walking up to them in the dark going clank, 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 clank. A lot of people hate that shit. It's never been Just Us. Those aren't cyber ninjas. They're Iron Man outfits.
Yeah,
they're
robots.
Bayformers.
Yeah.
So you can't really tell anything about sound design from these trailers because it's mostly the music. I really, really hope that the cyber ninjas make this noise.
Absolutely. Gosh, that would be
so
sick.
good shit.
Yeah, I was.
They did give Jax's gotcha, so maybe.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from Cyrax. It looks like his bomb is going to be him standing on the screen with a bomb blowing himself up, which is kind of funny and crazy, of
Well, I
course.
mean, that was always his teleport, was he'd break into pieces and reassemble on
Right.
the other side.
Right.
That's my favorite thing about him, is like his win pose, where the limbs slowly and
Yes.
like in an
Yes.
asymmetrical order assemble, and
It
it
looks
looks
so good.
so like
It's
it
sick.
looks creepy, like a marionette.
Yeah, and if they're getting alternate attires, I would love to see Cyrax's Deadly Alliance outfit back as one of his alts for his cameo. That would be sick. But yeah, I am beyond stoked by what I saw with Cyrax. His forward or his throw animations where he bops you over the head with his bomb like an MK9, and then his fatal blow. Man, I wish he did the tombstone drop, the flipping tombstone thing, but it looks like he does something else that's cool where he just takes both of he does his saw blade, which looks cool, of course. It looks really good, actually, super polished.
Yeah.
He takes both of his bombs and just smashes you on both sides of your face with them. Like, that looks sick. I was so happy with that. And Sektor looked really good too with all the missiles for his fatal blow. That looks super sick. Him up flying in the sky, shooting a bunch of missiles down, and one of them just burying it into his opponent's head. And then the glowing eyes, like they have like the black eyes, like their usual like classic attires, but then when they're doing stuff using their abilities, they have like these like glowing eyes, and they're not just like the little glowing lines like we saw in the more recent games. They actually have like a full-on like ominous like spooky glow to them, which looks
Yeah,
really
it's
cool.
like the light in the eyes when it turns on is really like bright and intense. I like
Yeah.
There's a
that.
lot of people
It's
out there
sick.
who are like, I prefer the black eyes, the dead jet black eyes,
Sure.
and there's a lot of folks who like the multicolored eyes look that you see on the Storm Collectibles figures, and they figured out a way to just have them light up as they're in action. It looks so fucking
I really
good.
like the compromise. Yeah, I was always of the black eye guy, and
Yeah.
fucking they did it perfectly of mixing and matching the both of them.
Exactly. Can't agree more. So yeah, I mean, as far as
Love the-
cameos, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I even love the texture of the outfits, how it looks like that cheap plastic. Like it just that's exactly what I want for the fucking game, and that's
Yeah.
my problem with it. It's like
Well,
I just wish we had a game full of this shit. Like
yeah.
I wish it just looked like that, because that's like what I want.
I mean, if you zoom in real close, like if you get like if you're watching at the highest res and you pause, the black undersuit has like the techie lines and grooves in it, and there's some bits that are even improved over that, like more
Right.
than the way they did it in 9,
Yeah.
where some of the bits are sort of sticking outward as plates, and I think that mix of like improving the black spandex
Yeah.
but keeping the colored armor looking that like motocrossy way. I think that's it walks a line between cheesy and updated that I think is the perfect aesthetic.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Yeah.
wish the whole game looked like.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I
this
don't think
is,
they've ever looked better.
and this is why, yeah, like, I mean, I can't be that salty or anything about them not being playable right now, because if this is what we're gonna have for, let's say they do make a DLC, even if they don't, but let's say they do, like if I get to use them in this form, in their like premier form, their best form as like a secondary in every match that I choose to, until they are playable down the road, then it's like I'm a happy camper. I think it's really, really sick. And
The
they
only
up-
problem is, yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and they upped, even they gave the cameos even more representation, because now their names are on the under the life bar as well as the
Oh, I
character
didn't
you're
notice
choosing.
that.
So yeah, the character
Huh.
you're choosing also has their name under the life bar, as well as the cameo's
Nice.
name is under the life bar as well.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like,
I'm glad they added that, because I wasn't like, I don't have a problem with portraits under the health bar, but I like the name to be there too, because
Yeah, I
there's a
was
lot of
wondering why
people
the name wasn't there.
like if you're
It was
if you're
odd,
playing for
yeah.
if you're playing for the first time, or those portraits are so tiny, you might not know who that character is if you're
Yeah.
not familiar. So having the name there has always been like preferable to me.
yeah,
It's good to see that they're even updating the UI and shit.
yeah, and it's just, I even like I said, I love it even more because it's just more representation for these characters. Let's say we get like Drawman as a cameo at some point, or any of these like 3D era characters that not everybody knows who they are. It's like, how are you going to teach them who they are, other than to, one, have them so implemented as cameos, which is awesome, which is what we're getting, but two, their picture and their name is right there. So you will know who they are whether you like it or not. Like you will learn because they're is just as much a part of like each match as the playable character for a lot in a lot of ways. So I think that's exciting. It's a nice way to reintroduce some of the characters that they couldn't bring in as playable right out of the gate because, you know, reintroduce them this way and then maybe next game they'll have the support that they need or the, you know, kind of reinvigorated fan base or desire. So that's also cool. So I like that bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the trailer in general was just super hype. I loved it. Like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, Shad was talking about it. Like this was a blessing for anybody that's a Lin Kuei fan. We've been kind of been put on like these characters and their fans have been kind of put on like the back burner, on the side burner. Like it's not that they haven't been there at all. Sub-Zero's always there. You know, in MK11, MKX, he was there. Especially in MKX, he played more of just like that side role with the Tea Party and stuff. He wasn't really a prominent figure. But it feels like we're finally going to get Lin Kuei as a prominent force and focus in story mode. The fact that they are being recruited by Liu Kang as his warriors, as part of his Champions of Earthrealm, to see them storming the castle and having all these moments together. I cannot wait. We're finally going to see these characters get like cutscene moments, something we were robbed of so many times, it felt like.
I have some thoughts about cutscene stuff. So one of the things we saw was Scorpion fighting like some kind of stone warriors that may have been the Dragon King's army.
Yeah,
Oh,
seemed like it.
I don't think any may have been about that.
It seems so. I don't want to speak out of turn because they edit these things in such a way where they take two different scenes that don't have anything to do with each other, and then they take footage from a regular arcade. Like people were asking, why was Rain's cameo classic MK2 Kung Lao? I bet you that bit of footage was not from story mode. It was just a regular versus fight.
Which one?
Where Rain's cameo was MK2 Kung Lao.
Oh yeah, well I also have another theory on that.
It's probably not from story mode.
It's either not from story mode or what I think might be happening is they're putting in placeholder cameos for now.
That's what I think.
In story mode.
Yeah.
So like
I think it's just that what we were seeing was Rain's arcade versus match intro animation, which you never see intro animations in story mode.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. I wouldn't be surprised, even if still in some of these instances where they're only going to use the cameos in story mode that they want us to see so far. The ones that they've revealed, they're not gonna show like I don't know, General Shao or something as a cameo until they're ready to show him like in the actual.
Other than Goro, I don't think we've seen a single story mode cameo yet, other than Goro. So what I wanted to say though is like, without knowing what they are editing together, what they're chopping from one chapter in a different chapter and putting them next to each other to confuse you, it looks a lot like... Well, first of all, Rain is the first villain we've had revealed other than Shang Tsung.
Yeah.
And there was a mysterious voice, like somebody is talking to the Lin Kuei as they're invading this frozen temple, and
we've been expecting
coming
you
from off screen, and we don't see who that is. And people have said that the voice sounds like it could be Geras without the echo filter applied to him. Some people have said it might be Goro or Reiko because the soldiers that they're stabbing as they infiltrate the place are wearing the same kind of armor Goro's wearing that looks like Reiko's Armageddon outfit. So they're definitely Outworld soldiers.
Which also has like that little Onaga kind of looking face on the front. Somebody paused it and had that. Yeah.
It could have been General Shao. We don't know whose voice that was, but those are sort of the options. The idea being that the Lin Kuei is infiltrating this frozen temple because Outworlders are there.
Right.
Which suggests to me that like this is some location in Earthrealm that the Outworlders have snuck into and are doing something. And it makes me wonder if it's not the Temple of Delia, which was at quote unquote Arctica, the Arctic. It was in the old timeline. the Temple of Delia first appeared as when Kuei Liang took over the Lin Kuei from Sektor. He moved away from the traditional Lin Kuei headquarters because the bad guys knew where it was, and he wanted to keep his clan safe. So he went looking for a new place to live, and he found an abandoned temple up in the Arctic. And then in Armageddon, you find out that the reason it's abandoned and the reason it exists is because it used to belong to Taven's mom. So in the 9X and 11 timeline, that temple never appeared at all. Sub-Zero just kept the Lin Kuei at the traditional Lin Kuei headquarters. This may be because that would explain why Rain is fucking there. You know,
Yeah.
maybe it has something to do with
Yeah, I didn't think it was just because it was snow covered. I didn't think Lin Kuei temple, like some were saying, because why would they be infiltrating their own temple?
Well,
It's just weird.
that's the thing is that we
Well,
saw
yeah.
a couple weeks ago. We saw a bit of footage, like I think it was hidden in the reveal trailer, a scrap here and a scrap there of people fighting in some kind of
Snowy environment.
frozen temple
It
area.
was a cameo trailer that I don't know if they were supposed to release or not, but it was like a small, like 30-second cameo trailer that stuff was in. Yeah.
So it was at that time we didn't have any like context. We just saw people fighting at a frozen temple, and at that time it would make sense to assume Lin Kuei headquarters. But now that we've seen the Lin Kuei are breaking into this temple, well, it's obviously not their place. It's wherever Rain and these potentially Onaga mummies or whatever's going on there have set up shop.
Right.
And the Temple of Delia makes sense to me, although this being a different timeline where everything's changed, it might not be that at all.
Looks like some type of mountain too, like they're climbing up it, so it's clearly been just like hidden away.
Yeah. But yeah,
What I wanted to ask was, did you guys actually happen to catch a view of the figure on horseback while Scorpion's taking down the what may be Onaga's army? Did you see the shadow?
Well, I noticed somebody thought that might have been Shao Kahn back in silhouette, but then somebody else pointed out that there's actually more than one figure on a horse wearing that helmet. So I think they're just more Outworld soldiers.
It might be more Outworld soldiers, but like the V on the shadow is pretty distinct.
I didn't see this.
On the head.
I didn't.
There is the Shao Kahn-ish V on the helmet. The outline appears right. I think it actually is him on horseback.
Interesting. Yeah.
Huh.
Looking.
So I mean, I don't.
Maybe he's riding around on Motaro.
It's interesting. Maybe. And I think it's interesting because, like, I think that there's a certain kind of impression that comes when, like, because it's time we talk about General Shao for a bit, you know. When you think, like, when you say that name, it kind of gives an impression of, like, a less complete version of that character in a way, right? Like, I know it did for me, like, I wasn't picturing the skull mask necessarily, or the samurai helmet. You know, it feels like someone who's who hasn't really adopted the mantle. The mantle is synonymous with that face, that skull mask, the samurai helmet, and the V on the head. But it does seem like he might still have that despite just being a general. Which, for the record, I'd be kind of okay with. I've been having a lot of trouble picturing kind of like a Shao Kahn that doesn't have that helmet and how strange it would be. Not impossible, just awkward. Weird.
I mean,
I imagine
Onaga
him
didn't
without
wear
the
a skull
helmet.
over his face. Shao Kahn kind of invented that, and then the people who, like, Molina's the only one other than him who really wore the skull. Reiko always wanted to wear the skull, but again, that was because he wanted to be Shao Kahn.
Oh god, could you actually fucking imagine if, like, Reiko was wandering around with, like, the Shao Kahn helmet, but not the mask? I'd laugh. He's on horseback, and he's just got, like, the back part of it on, and he's just smiling. We get it. We know what it's about.
Yeah. God, I didn't catch that part, but that's great. Let's jump over to some super chats because I know some people have been waiting.
Yeah, there's been a few in the queue.
So I got them all here. So we last. Okay, just making sure I'm not overlapping. Okay, so Darko Magic, we got that. Lance K said the Hanzo stuff. We talked about that. Grandmaster Sub-Zero. If Bihan dies and becomes noob, who becomes Sub-Zero if Kuei Liang is Scorpion? If Bihan dies and becomes noob, who becomes Sub-Zero?
That's the question, isn't it? Because, like, this, if Kuei Liang is Scorpion, as he does appear to be, you have you might be stuck with Bihan in that role because you've got to have a Sub-Zero unless you
Where the fuck is
introduce a
Hanzo?
completely different person. Where is Hanzo? That's the question.
Maybe he's
Nobody
the Grandmaster.
knows.
Maybe he was the
But-
Grandmaster.
But if I was Liu Kang and I was
Weird way.
remaking reality, I'd want to put Hanzo, knowing his history so far away from bloodshed and violence. You know, I wouldn't have him be part of any ninja clan. But it is a question. What happened to Hanzo Hasashi?
Is he
I
smoke?
mean,
I wouldn't, you know,
maybe.
I wouldn't go into this assuming that everybody's going to be
Somebody else.
It's a fucking game of identity musical chairs.
I
But I will
think
say, there
because
was
the
a
mystery is
time-
like something Liu Kang has screwed up something building this new timeline, and it's
Yeah.
going to be the threat that they face. So
Right.
it's like, will the changes he's made remain by the end of the game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will there be some sort of bleed in where the characters become what they used to, like with Molina's mouth and this
Sure.
Tarkatan disease? I keep wondering if it's really a disease or it's not just what they call it because they don't understand why it's happening.
Sure.
It's entirely possible that if Bihan were to die, like Bihan could totally survive this game, and that's how they keep a Sub-Zero around, while dealing with the fact that they've given Kuei Liang fucking fire powers for no reason. Or halfway through the game, Kuei Liang could lose his fire powers and be like, "Why am I throwing ice all of a sudden? How did that happen?" And it's because reality's fucked.
That would be so weird.
You never know. You
Yeah.
never know. We don't know where the story is going. We don't. Everything we've seen, I'm betting, is just from the first like 2 to 3, maybe 5 chapters of story mode.
Yeah.
First
we don't
half
even-
hour,
Like
easily.
I said, we've only seen 2
Yeah.
villains. We've only seen Shang Tsung and Rain. We don't know what the threat is yet.
Yeah. It's just basically so far it's gather the troops, a little bit of training, and some infiltrating. Like, yeah, that's absolutely got to be very, very, very selectively chosen for a reason because they don't want to blow the lid off of who all the real villains are, what all the characters we're getting. That's gonna represent the other side, the more chaotic, like where everything just goes to shit side. Everything's still kind of it almost like we're ramping up a little bit outside of the initial reveal where they gotta have Shang Tsung because he's pre-order bonus. Say him go on like a killing spree, but it feels like we're ramping up in terms of like, okay, we're gathering the like things. We're starting off in the fields. We're gathering up the troops. Something's coming. And now we're to the Lin Kuei are on a mission. So it's almost like kind of we're slowly being shown kind of the progression of how this is not going to be as it seems. And it's interesting. It's an interesting way
They keep
to
showing
market it.
Yeah. They keep showing specific scenes with Liu and like them just working with Sub and Scorpion and shit.
Yeah.
And like that seems to be the main group right now.
Which is
Because they
great.
haven't shown really anything else.
Yeah, which is great. They truly do feel like. I hope this is not just like a gotcha. We tricked you into thinking like Dark Raiden situation where we're led to believe
Yeah.
Lin Kuei are going to play a bigger role and they're really only there for like the first 3 chapters and the rug's pulled out from under us type of thing, and it's somebody else that's going to be the main heroes. I don't think so. By the way, that they're setting this up. Please just cross your fingers and put some garlic under your
40
pillow or any of that shit. But I don't know.
45 minutes into story mode, the G.I. Joe theme starts playing, and like fucking Jack Kool-Aid man through a wall.
Come in and tank. Yeah. Oh god.
Just start like shooting up all the fucking like General Shao's men.
But yeah, what I was gonna say is it truly feels like they are the main troops this time, which is great. Like I'm sure we'll still get other allies like Johnny Cage and Kenshi. They're clearly there. Raiden, Kung Lao. They're all a part of this Liu Kang's champions. But it also seems like the Lin Kuei are doing. They're fielding a lot of this too. So I'm excited by that. So even if they take like, I'd be happy with like a fourth of the game. That's way more than I feel like they've ever gotten as a group in a story mode, anyways. So. Yeah. Anyways, as far as who becomes noob, who becomes Sub-Zero in that case, I have no freaking clue. I don't think any of us have a good answer for that.
I'm just gonna say, for argument's sake, this is not necessarily the thing I want to happen, but we did live in a world for a really long time back in the day, before most of the series' current fan base was born, probably. We lived in that world from like 1993 to like 2005 or 6 or whatever. No, 4, when Deception came out. Noob Saibot was a person before he was retroactively
Right.
the original Sub-Zero. He was a weird, creepy, shadowy wraith, and I liked him just fine as that. Making him retroactively Bihan was like the cherry on top, because it all clicked and it all made sense and it all felt perfect, and there's no way of describing what that felt like to someone who wasn't there. It was this gigantic, holy shit, it all aligns moment. Totally accidental, but totally wonderful. But I liked Noob just for being a Shadow Wraith before, and I could love him again. Even if he is somehow not Bihan. I could go back to that. Not my first choice, but it's an option.
I think it's like if you're gonna have Noob be somebody else, I think it's all about like explaining how we get there. Does it make sense? Does it fit in this new universe that they're creating, as well as it felt like they fit Bihan into it? Because they kind of just fell into that, but it ended up being amazing. Obviously, people
like,
fell in love with
hard
it.
to
So
figure
can they do that? Can they capture that magic again with a different character? That remains to be seen. So if they even go that route, there's nothing saying they will, but
I mean, if Kuei Liang is Scorpion this time through, as seems to 100% or 99% be the case, that's already weirder than just Noob Saibot being his own guy again for the first time in like 2 decades, you know?
yeah.
Stranger things are happening, or appear to be.
Next one here from Lance K, $5. Feels easier to make Hanzo the adopted brother of Bihan than it does Kuei Liang taking Scorpion's identity.
Well, what's easier is not necessarily what Dom wants to do, you know?
Yeah, I mean they could also just be like, once again, the premise here is that Liu Kang is creating this new world, but it's not. The choices that we end up with are not necessarily based on what Liu Kang was trying to do either. Ed Boon said as much himself, that he's trying to create this new peaceful world, but then something goes wrong. So this where like things go in a little bit of a blender and they don't like, why would this happen? Or why would he do this? Clearly there's something else. It's like the Powerpuff Girls, right? You got sugar and spice, everything nice, and then chemical X. You know, like this is Chemical X.
I love the idea that Havoc just comes in and like totally sees through all of Lou's shit and like blows it up.
Yeah.
And just tells everyone what's going on.
Yeah.
I would love that, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But it's, yeah.
Bitch, you can't change who people are. Yeah. No.
See, I don't want to go down that road, because we went down that road with 11, where when Chronica showed up, I was like, the Dream Lady's goal was to undo the fucked up things Raiden did in 9. So if Chronica is the version of the Dream Lady that they've come up with, I'm on her side. And then it turns out Chronica was an idiot, and it wasn't about that at all. But based on the what Lou thinks these characters should be, it kind of sounds like Chronica was better than him.
Like I said, we don't know.
I do not trust Liu Kang with the hourglass anymore. He has already failed.
Like I said, we don't know which of these have actually been his choices and what has like tainted things.
Well, look, they're both fundamentally making a mistake. Chronica, her whole motivation was that she was obsessed with creating a universe where the fighting would never end.
Right.
So she would get frustrated every time the good guys won too much, and she ran out of ideas for conflict. She'd just be like, fuck it, reset button, try it again. And then the good guys would win again, reset button, try again, and so on and so forth. She was always trying to create conflict. Liu Kang is the opposite. He's trying to make a world where there is no conflict and everybody lives in peace. And that's just not human nature, man.
Sure.
And
he's making the same mistake, but in the opposite direction.
What would Havoc hate more than a universe where everyone was at peace?
See, that's what a good writer would do. Dom Chiancholo is, every human being has flaws. Let's put it that way. Mortal Kombat's story is not written by itself. It's written by a person in Chicago. And that sometimes you have to learn who that person is.
Look,
what they are capable of.
without casting any aspersions on anyone's writing skill set, which we've done plenty of times, I feel like even the most basic bitch would understand that Havoc would not want a peaceful universe. Chaos is the name of the game, and lose goals are very much not that. That's all I need.
Sure.
All I'm
and
saying
there's
is
very much we could get that. We'll see what
the
happens.
guy who wrote 11 and who is writing the same stuff in 12 still doesn't know what the word demigod means. He still doesn't know how to use a dictionary.
All right. Well, moving on, because we've beat that drum about as much as you could possibly beat a drum over the years. Mr. Grims, how do you guys think they will explain the whole summoning cameos in the story mode? I think they've already said cameos are not story canon. At least most of them are not. There's going to be some that are exclusive to story. So what I'm thinking is, like I said, kind of alluded to before, I don't expect the cameos, like I don't expect just MK2 Kung Lao to be alongside Rain in story mode, for example, even if that was just like a versus thing. Just using that as like a pure example of like a hypothetical. I don't see something like that happening. I think the cameos that we get in story are going to be fitting to the actual scene at play. So maybe not, like I said, not all of them are going to be playable in versus. Some of them are going to be exclusive to story mode, as they've said. But I expect you to always be doing something as a pair. Otherwise, they'll just keep it one-on-one. Like I think we saw in the original gameplay trailer that Kung Lao didn't even have his hat, and he was just facing like Sub-Zero in the tea house, and neither of them seemed like they had a cameo attached. So I could see at points it's just 1v1, no cameos at all, and it's going to be more of a stripped down, bare bones, just get through the story type of fight. And then other times you're going to have your actual cameos, but they're going to be like partners in story. So like if Smoke is up, if it's his chapter, he'll have Sub-Zero with him at that time. So it's going to be stuff like that, is my guess.
Yeah, I think they'll use it as a, like, story mode has always been in Ed's mind a training mechanic. So if you'll start out like fucking chapter 1 could be Hatless Kung Lao with no cameo, and it's like, you're not going to learn how to do special moves yet, you're not going to learn how to do your breaker yet, you're not going to learn how to summon guys yet. This is just the part where you get used to punching and kicking, and then they introduce those elements as the chapter goes on, and then from chapter 2 on you have all your kit, every character. It could be
Right.
something like that.
I could even see like the Raiden chapter being the first one, like with Kenshi, where they're training.
Yeah.
And maybe
Well,
that's where they
it's-
like introduce shit.
in the tea house where Kung Lao doesn't have his hat and all that kind of thing, it's sort of, I would expect that to be earlier in the story, because
Yeah,
if you
that
don't
too.
have access to some of your special moves, and you don't have access, well, specifically if you don't have access to your cameo, you can't breaker and you can't forward throw.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's, you probably can't fatal blow either. There's
No, you
there's
can't,
just
yeah.
too many mechanics that
That's a
are
good point.
part of the base game that you don't have access to if you don't have a cameo. So that has to be very early in some kind of training sequence.
Yeah. Nitrax, I can't wait to see who wins the character draft. Yeah, I gotta update that actually. I didn't even think about that today, but I think Smokeman was in the lead before. There's a little controversy on that because I don't know. Somebody said Sindel was revealed in the trailer, but then somebody else said that it was like in this other side trailer version of it, or not the main. I don't know. Either way, I think Smokeman's in the lead even without Sindel points. But currently, I updated on the last podcast, so I can't really give an update because, like I said, I completely forgot about the points. But I think Smokeman was in the lead with like Shad and Razor right behind, and then me, so on and so forth. But yeah, I'll keep updating that, and we'll keep going along, and I'll have an update next time we discuss because I completely forgot about that. But yeah,
I think we've seen
fun.
Sindel like twice in backgrounds now, and she's mentioned directly in Rain's bio.
Oh, she's
She's
getting
definitely-
points. She's getting points. It
she's-
was more, should she
she's
get
kicking around.
reveal trailer points? Because I don't know necessarily that she was in the actual like reveal trailer that they put out. So I think she might have been put out in like, sometimes they put out like different versions of a trailer that have like 2 seconds of difference in different countries. She might have been in one of
Right.
those. So I just got to
Yeah.
research it a little bit more. Either way, he has the points right now. I think he's in the lead. last time we talked. But yeah, like I said, I'll have a better update once I add in the points for today's characters that were shown off. And then Justice didn't. Thank you very much. Huge sub Kuai Yang fan, but seeing how the story appears to be heading, he may be Scorpion. A brotherly rivalry where he splits from the clan, forms the Shirai Ryu. It just makes sense seeing it out. So that's their opinion. Anything else you guys wanted to talk about? I know we talked about a ton. Oh, I guess there's Molina's mouth. Any thoughts on that?
I have also seen
Oh
Blade
my
2.
god. Yes, so have I. They can't stop messing with it, can they? They can't. Just a little
Pretty
thing here,
gross.
twist here, nudge there, some tusks today, some Blade 2 jaws tomorrow. Oh my god, man. I mean, it looks gross and freaky, I'll give it that.
Yeah, it does. It's disturbing. That's what I said when asked
But-
about it on Twitter. It's disturbing. Like, I don't hate it. I don't love it. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of investment on how her mouth looks. I think most people would probably be happy that it wasn't the lips again. But I mean, if you want to add like the Predator type blade opening the jaw thing, like whatever. She was always supposed to be like disturbing under that mask. So if people have gotten too akin to the old Baraka face, why not?
Maybe
let's
that's it.
add
Like,
another
maybe-
layer to it to really disturb people again. I think that's why they
Maybe-
did it.
That might be the point. It's a surface level thing, not meant to be analyzed too much. It's just like people have gotten too used to this. Let's make it a little bit freaky to throw people off. And
Yeah.
the Blade 2 zombies are a little bit gross, and yeah, it seems to be having the desired effect.
I would also
I just-
say
She's not gonna. Yeah,
I just
she's not gonna
find
be
it
doing that all the time.
I just find it funny how they just keep messing with the mouth in different ways. It is objectively hilarious.
I will say the thing that disturbs me most about it isn't even the extra like jaw opening. It's the way the tongue looks. If you look at
Yeah,
that
the
again,
tongue
it's
was fucking
The
disturbing.
crazy.
freakiest part is the tongue.
It's like a snake. It's like like it's fucking disturbing. It's like a balloon just flying around, like one little thin, like one of those long thin balloons. It was nasty looking. Like I could like she always kind of had that like snake like almost tongue where it's very thin and creepy, but this is just like a whole nother level of like it has its own life form in a way. It's disgusting looking. Like that absolutely disturbs me more than in the mouth thing, I think.
There's some Stephen King shit going on here at some sort of
Yes.
subliminal level.
Yeah. So I definitely think that's probably why they did it though. Beyond the whole Turcotte virus, and maybe they'll do the same with Baraka and he'll be extra creepy. But I think ultimately, if I had to guess, it's people have gotten so used to the way her mouth looks. They don't really find her quote unquote repulsive because of it, like she was originally supposed to be. They've warmed up to it over all these years. So now let's
that was my
throw
problem.
another wrench
That was
into
my
it.
problem with the lips in X. My problem was always that it was making her too attractive for people, a
Yeah.
little too waifuable.
This is
and
definitely
she's
going the
supposed to be
opposite way.
creepy and gross.
Yeah.
She's
How
supposed
do you
to.
like your queen now?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, it is quite disturbing.
So I do appreciate that about it.
But
That's the point of her. You're supposed to be horrified by her.
yeah.
Yeah, she's
forget
supposed to be
that.
considered. The word they used over and over again was grotesque, which
Yeah.
is
Yep.
a strong word. So
But yeah, other than that, I mean, like I said, I think mostly it's been pretty excited and positive by what we saw. Obviously, there's little nitpicks with like the smoke look and some of the rain stuff, the gameplay wise. But I'm really curious. I'm really curious when we're going to see more of their gameplay. Hopefully, that's the next combat cast, and then hopefully they keep up doing the trailer stuff. Like that would be a great rhythm to do. Like every combat cast have a trailer that introduces new characters, like new ones that we haven't been revealed yet, I should say, like what we got here, a fun little thematic trailer or whatever, featuring certain characters, and then break down some of the characters we saw last time.
Tyler did make a point of them not announcing when the next combat cast would be, which is
I'm not-
disappointing.
Disappointing, but it's not unexpected.
No,
They
this
are
is
in-
totally par for the course. This is
They did this last
Are-
time, technically.
This is the fourth NRS game that we've been a channel for, and like the dozenth that we've all been fans for. So none of this cycle is new to us.
Yeah, they
as,
don't like
old men.
They don't like just putting out like a schedule. Like here's a roadmap of when you expect reveals. Not even like with Combat Cast do they typically announce it a couple days ahead of time, maybe a week, but they don't go like at the end of Combat Cast we're gonna do another one this time until
No,
they've
I
had it
honestly
like nailed down.
I truly feel that they don't have the liberty to do that. This is 2 months before the release of a game. This is what they, unaffectionately refer to as crunch time.
Yeah.
Right now, people are working around the clock somewhere in Chicago. I guarantee.
Oh
you.
yeah.
People are pulling late shifts. People are like staying in the office till like 3 a.m. getting shit done overtime. And
Yeah.
to any of those people who may be listening, thank you, and I am grateful.
Well, I
Absolutely
do
am.
think it's disappointing that like you have Ed at the Summer Games Fest dropping phrases like the drip of info would be constant, and it has very much not.
Well, to be fair, 'cause I
There
know
is
this
a
has been
long history.
This has been a sticking point for some in the community, and I've tried to be like the beacon of patience in the community. But to be fair to them, this is no different than MK11. I'm not saying that justifies or
X,
anything.
or 9.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying like 11. It was several weeks between reveal to gameplay, and it was several weeks after gameplay to the first Combat Cast. But I will say, after that first Combat Cast, that's when we started getting stuff near weekly. So I do think we are at that point now. I do think we are going to get stuff near weekly, 2 weeks max, but I think we are going to be getting a pretty
I certainly
consistent
hope
drip
so.
of information. So I
We
wouldn't
are-
worry too much. I don't think we're going another 4 weeks. Like right now, he said San Diego Comic-Con, which I think somebody said is 2 weeks. I haven't checked myself, but if that's accurate, that's for sure when we're going to get something else. Otherwise, why mention it? But we may, who knows, maybe we'll get more bios that go up, or extra another reveal, something drops, who knows. But yeah, I mean, my ideal thing is let's do the Combat Cast, let's have the trailers before, but at the end of the day, we're getting the game in like what, August, September. We're getting the game in 2 months.
weeks.
It really does not
10.5 weeks.
it does not matter. On that note, though, thanks everybody for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed the discussion, whether you agreed with everything or disagreed. It's all about.
Can I just say something
Sure.
before we sign off?
Sure.
You guys really don't have any idea how fucking happy I am about Smoke. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating with this. There have been times in my life with this series, especially in recent years, thinking back on it and wondering, Temps actually said this too about Lee May. Am I more of a Lee May fan than I am a Mortal Kombat fan? I wonder. It's like that about me too. Like, I wonder if I'm actually more of a fan of like this one guy and the storyline that I fell in love with as like an angsty teenager. And like going into this and having the knowledge in advance that some alignments would be different, things would be changed radically, and having maybe Kuei Liang as Scorpion as the penultimate potentially example of that. You have no idea how terrified I was that they were going to pull off some, MK11 Sindel shit and go, Smoke's a demon in Enra from the start now, or something like that. Today, my greatest fear was allayed. Put to rest. Put to bed. The dude's a ninja. He works for the Lin Kuei. He appears to be Kuei Liang's brother. Seems to be a good guy. Everything else can go screw. I'm really fucking happy today. I don't care what his mask looks like. I don't care what his hair looks like. Smoke is still Smoke. Before he was over to Masafobata, he was Smoke. And that's all I need. Take it away, Cyborg.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks everybody for tuning in. You'll be hearing from us soon, I'm sure. And yeah, like I said, I was saying before, if you agree or disagree with all of our points, that's perfectly fine. We are not here to preach all of the things that we're gonna like on some things, dislike on some things, nitpick things for sure. But I think we provide a very diverse range of opinions between each other, and that's how it's always been. So I'm sure some of you agreed with some of us, disagreed with some of us, and that's the intent. We're not all here to be robots to tell you exactly what you want to hear or all say the same thing. So I just want to reiterate that to anybody that's newer to listening to us. If you go back, that's how we've been for the last 9 years. And that's how we are going to remain to be. That being said, hopefully we at least entertained you. That is ultimately the goal here. And not to just say everything that's right or for you to agree with, but to entertain. And hopefully you enjoyed that entertainment, and we will catch you very soon. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you all very soon.
See you later, nerds.
I really have to pee again.